Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Jets Afterburners. Again, here, your co-host, New York Jets 16. There's Liam right there. What's up, Liam?
What's going on, everybody? It feels so good to be back. I feel like we haven't done one of these shows in forever. And it's the part of the year where no news is still... normally, no news is good news. Not for the New York Jets. Not for this team. No.
No, not at all.
No news is still news.
Always.
And
with that being said, I mean, we have two great guests. I mean, bottom left, we have Monty, co-host of Laugh Through the Turbulence podcast, and down bottom right, we have Brandon Puckris, correct? Writer for the Jets at X Factor.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks for having us.
Yeah, glad to be joining the show tonight. Thank you guys for having me.
Excellent. Now, we're going to go with the elephant in the room here. Where the hell is Aaron Rodgers? Is he visiting Guantanamo Bay to kill some time, hanging out with RFK? Did he open up his own dispensary maybe, or did he just go to Dutch Wonderland with Edward Snowden? I'm going with the Snowden type of thing. That's what I'm thinking.
Oof, I'm going to go with another darkness retreat, man. I mean, he seems to, he was going on about it. He was being interviewed by, I think it was actually the Tucker Carlson interview, but he was being interviewed about it, saying how all these different players are, asking him about that stuff on a regular, and, all the different things that he does to get ready, mentally and physically, and, get himself in the headspace to perform at the level that he typically performs at. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he's out, getting his mind right, which I'm okay with it.
Brandon?
I'm just going to say he took a vacation and he went somewhere to get his mind right and get ready for the season. And I think anyone else trying to speculate further, it's just people having fun and people joking with it. Because with Aaron Rodgers, the one thing that is that you never know.
100%. Absolutely. I think it's a complete non-story. Honestly, where we're talking about, what, 2 or 3 days out of the year, minicamp, the offense goes through him, right? It goes through Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't go through freaking Hackett. Like, we've seen what kind of offensive coordinator he is. So everything runs through Rodgers, make him happy. The only thing that I didn't like is how they handled it. That's what I didn't like. Like, was it mandatory for Saleh to say that it was inexcused absence? Why?
Just to make it the point of unexcused or inexcused. He said it like 4 times. Made it a point that it was inexcused. Now, I had heard a report, I think it was a caller on Jake Aspen's show, saying that Rodgers had a golf outing, like a charity event that he had to go to. Okay. And I had mentioned that on Boy Green, and Boy Green kind of made a good point that I didn't even think of, saying, like, don't you think there'd be pictures, like media, like, wouldn't there be something going around? And not only that, wouldn't the One Jets Drive cameras be following him around for that too? I don't know. I mean, I don't think he would just go on vacation, be like, oh yeah, just screw it. So I don't know. I have no idea where he can be. AJ Hawk made a good point. He said, spin a globe and put your finger somewhere. He could be there because nobody knows where he's going to be.
Yeah, Guantanamo Bay.
And he's not a guy who, from what I understand, is his family situation. Like, he's like super tight with them. So it's not like he's, dipping off to go to a family event. You know what I mean? Because we know he's, that's kind of a notorious fact about him, is that he's not the tightest with his own, family in that regard. He's a little bit of estranged from them. So I don't think it's that. I was half joking before, but it very well could be him doing some sort of Aaron Rodgers-esque preparatory behavior just to get himself in the mode. I don't know. Who knows?
I'm all for it. If he does something like that, right? Go for it. I think a lot of us, like we kind of amplify that, right? Like, oh shit, he went on the retreat, this and that. But I think sometimes just personally speaking, I mean, I've never done ayahuasca or whatnot, but I've done like fasting. I don't know if you could like even match up the two, but like the whole mindset of just trying to purify yourself and just thinking things through a little bit better. And maybe with Aaron Rodgers, he knows that push is coming to shove. He's the quarterback of the New York Jets, came off of a horrible injury last year with so much expectations. And now it's Act 2. And this team is loaded, fellas. We have a brick wall in front of them. Like legit. I mean, Tyron Smith, he looks limber, dude. He looks 100% healthy. You have him healthy, you have an Aaron Rodgers. I think a stellar Aaron Rodgers, fellas.
You guys see the video with Tyron Smith and doing his footwork drills? Guy looks like MC Hammer out there.
Dude, I started dancing bachata, man.
Yeah.
I think Rodgers is healing that blister. I think that's what's going on.
Oh yeah.
I was just thinking about it.
The talk of the town for a whole day.
I think when it comes to Rodgers with the whole situation, I think there is an extremely valid point where people are like, hey, why wasn't this communicated better? If they knew about it, they knew it was coming in advance, why didn't they simply say, oh, he was excused? I think it has to do with the fact that, Hassan Reddick's also dealing with his contract situation, and he's also absent. And I think it's about, and obviously we don't know what it's like inside the building, but I think it's about keeping the standard in the sense of if you let one guy slide, and yes, Aaron Rodgers is different than most players on the New York Jets roster. That goes without saying. But once you give that inch, some players look at it or might look at it as, hey, you're letting Rodgers slide with this, yet it's different for everybody else. I think what's the point Sal was trying to get across is we knew about it. It's fine with the team, but it still technically falls under unexcused in the sense of he's missing a mandatory practice.
Right.
But,
right.
It's a non-story. The guy's been at every OTA practice, yet because of the way it's communicated, and if you've been following this team, the Jets aren't exactly the best at communicating things through the media. Because of the small little, hey, this doesn't line up here and here, now you get all the stories that come out of it and all the people running with it, when really it's a nothing burger. So it's very interesting how he goes from point A to point B. But look, he's going to be there for training camp. He's going to be the quarterback of the Jets this season. Beyond that, like, it's June. People are trying to find a story when there's really nothing going on.
Yep,
he's been there for everything.
Media. Yeah,
he's been there for everything. Things he didn't even have to be there for. If he's going to come to every involuntary, be there, being himself, leading the team, building the connection, saying all the right things, and then he misses one. Like what? He's just going to ditch the team now? Like that doesn't make any sense. It's a nothing burger. Exactly what you said, Brandon.
Yeah. Now there have been reports actually by Boomer Esiason recently on WFAN saying that Aaron Rodgers has been the biggest distraction since coming to this team. I don't see it that way. I don't know about you guys, but I do not see it that way. Nope. Now, he's a lightning rod. There's a difference between attracting attention and being a distraction. He just, people just naturally, what is Aaron Rodgers up to? And now it's the New York Jets that everybody everybody loves to dunk on the New York Jets. So, now we got this lightning rod planted in Florham Park. Let's all see what this guy's up to. Let's see if he blows out his other Achilles. And now he's talking about RFK Jr. and he's talking about the vaccine and it's this and it's that. Now, listen, the guy could say whatever he wants. Maybe some of it can be a distraction, but who is it really distracting? Is it distracting the players? Where how often do we hear Robert Saleh saying, we block out the outside noise, block out the noise, the outside media. We don't care about that. So how much of a distraction is it really? And now this is the distraction because he has something personal going on. Now, listen, during our day jobs, have we all not taken a day and I don't know about you guys, but I don't go around. I don't tell every single coworker, hey, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'll tell my boss, hey, I got something coming up. Sorry, can't make it. Simple as that.
Great point. And just really quick to chime in about your distraction point. You know, his teammates just voted him, you know, a few months ago, the most inspirational player on the Jets team. He's voted that by the players. That's who matters. If they see him as inspirational and not as a distraction, then that's what matters. The end of story. Exactly right, Liam.
Well,
I
that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I'm not.
No,
not to
go for
cut
it,
you
Brandon,
off, but I think what it comes down to is the idea of like a perceived distraction, right? Because when he's going on McAfee and he's doing these appearances, and he, like, for example, flashback to last year when he's talking about coming back and wanting to possibly return from a torn Achilles if the Jets are in the playoff hunt. I think it boils down to what is perceived as a distraction and what is actually a distraction, right? Because if the Jets were in the playoff hunt, that perceived distraction of Rodgers coming back, now you're getting your quarterback back on the field. You could argue it's a way to give that team hope. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're looking at it from the outside, it's a guy that isn't on the field, isn't contributing to the team's play, that's consistently in the media and talking about the team while he's not actually there. It's that split between how the team actually feels, or how that you would think the team feels, and what everybody else sees looking in from the outside. And that carries over to now, right?
Right.
Everybody is, and let's face it, not everyone's looking at what the Jets are doing on a day-to-day basis. Not everyone's following what is going on with this team. But that context is important because you have people looking in from the outside that aren't aware that Rodgers has been there at OTAs, that aren't aware, and most people aren't, of what's going on in the building and how he's operating right off the bat in the offseason program. When they see the news of Aaron Rodgers isn't attending mandatory minicamp, it's an immediate firestorm. It's immediate firecracker because, the controversial quarterback isn't at the mandatory practice. The Jets are screwed. Meanwhile, on the inside, his teammates have seen him during OTAs. The coaches know where he's at, and it's a non-story. So once again, it just comes down to the perceived aspect of what is a distraction on the outside and what actually is a distraction on the inside. And look, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. Whether you agree with him, whether you disagree with him, he's going to attract attention with whatever he says and whatever he does. And quite frankly, it's the bed the Jets made. Yep. They made this decision to trade for Aaron Rodgers. And when you trade for Aaron Rodgers, you trade for all the attention that comes with it. So it just comes back to the point of, as long as it's not affecting the internal side of the team, as long as the players that Aaron Rodgers is playing with aren't being like, hey, what is this guy doing? Why isn't he more focused, et cetera, then it doesn't matter.
Right. I don't think there's not one player at One Jets Drive that has a problem with Aaron Rodgers going wherever he needs to. Now, you couple it with the New York Jets, right? Like, as with the media, I'm going to play devil's advocate. This is what you live for.
Yeah.
You know, look at Rich Cimini. The guy started off at New York Newsday. Dude, I used to read him when I was in freaking junior high. And that was, I don't know, like when black and white TV was like special, right? But he made his bread and butter with the Jets. Why? Because it was always one story on top of another. And then something like this comes out, which 2 weeks ago at, what is it? I forgot what it was. It was the OTAs. Rodgers just took off his shoe and it just blew up. He has a problem with his foot, this and that. It's always like that. It's always going to be like that. But as long as it's something so simple like this, I think the Jets can continue to move on, keep doing what you're doing. Don't bring up major distractions, right? Like no drama, no, I don't think this guy should be doing this. Or like with the whole Hassan Reddick thing, I honestly think it's a non-story. He even tweeted it out. He's like, you guys are making way too much of this, quote unquote. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing. I'll pull up the tweet, which he said, was it two days ago or yesterday? Don't look into it too much. They had an agreement when the trade was made. It wasn't, there was no extension, no talk about that. And honestly, not for nothing, we're talking about a pass rusher, folks. We're not talking about a running back who needs to know the playbook. We're not talking about a wide receiver who needs to know his routes. We're talking about a pass rusher. That's his job. That's it. If he misses the entire training camp, I couldn't care less. As long as he's there against the Niners out in California, pin your ears back and sack Purdy and do what you need to do. That's why I don't look at it as a big distraction on the whole Hassan Reddick thing. What are your thoughts on that?
Now, have you heard reports that he kind of lied to the Jets, saying like everything's great, everything's fine, and now all of a sudden like he's holding out? So I think that could be what's pissing the people off. Because like,
yeah. I was going to speak on that too. Yeah. Connor Hughes reported that, just today. His report essentially was that there was a mutual understanding between Hassan Reddick, his people, and the Jets organization that there would be no contract extension done before the season. And that makes sense from a Jets perspective. I mean, we're over cap right now. We got to figure our whole situation out. We got to, see who we're keeping, who we're not, all those things, all those decisions, all those things that happen in the months that, between now and the beginning of the season, which is just normal run of the mill stuff. And,
right.
It makes sense also that you're getting a guy that, we got to kind of see that, he's, we got to see a little something from him too. He can't just, come in, demand a bunch of money. Like that's part of the reason that we're willing to trade for him, and I can't imagine that Joe Douglas would be, that silly or foolish to trade for him and like lie to him or, give
right.
like, cause you're going to have to pay the piper at some point. You know what I mean? You knew that. So like, yeah, I mean, there was a mutual understanding is what the understanding was per Connor Hughes. So, that is exactly, what they should be going off of. And that's kind of, I think, what we should be going off of as fans. I think they know what's up. I think they know where this is, what this was going into it. And, maybe he's holding out kind of like, quote unquote, as like a shot across the bow. Like, hey, listen, I am serious about this. I am willing to give up some money, to for this. So, just let you guys know I'm serious.
So there's the tweet right there, right? Stop believing the foolery you're seeing on the social media apps and news outlets, running crazy narratives and y'all eating it up, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm down with that. That is good enough for me. Like, I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And the whole thing with Connor Hughes, again, he's got to make some money too, right? Yep. So he has to throw that out there. 100%. He has to stir the pot a little bit. And the source is telling you right then and there, don't believe that. Don't believe it. Maybe there's, like you said, maybe there's a mutual understanding, be it after the trade. Look, I'm going to show up at training camp. I'm not going to go through this BS. I'm not. Maybe there's like an underlying type of injury. Who knows? Who knows that he has to get 100%? And that's all I want. I want a 100% healthy roster heading into the season, even training camp. I get that. But this whole thing, again, any little minute type of issue, it blows up 100%. This is what the media is going to do. That's why I'm not even going to play any credence towards it.
I also think that with this situation, it's a lot of nuance and like it isn't one thing or the other because, look, at the end of the day, they could have had the agreement. And I think it is likely that they had an agreement when the trade happened. But the matter of fact is Reddick was looking for an extension regardless. It's mainly the reason why Philadelphia traded him. His contract number of $15 million isn't guaranteed. And I highly doubt it'd be out of the range of possibilities that Reddick, as OTAs and minicamp approached, realized, hey, my contract isn't guaranteed. If something happens to me during these practices when I don't have an extension, I'm screwed. I'm not going to make any money where, I'm playing alongside Quinn Williams and this Jets defensive line. I'm going to have an opportunity to really cash in. It's not a situation where I'm looking at it and being like, oh, this can be a massive issue. Once again, it's June. It's June 13th. There is over a month until training camp starts. Right. There have been plenty of contract situations all across the NFL where they've been resolved by training camp, because at the end of the day, the best way to make money is being on the field. I think the Jets are warranted in their line of thinking, where you have 4 of your best players on your team coming up for contracts in one draft class, in Sauce, in Garrett, in Parise, in Jermaine. You have to manage the DJ Reed and Michael Carter II situation. You don't want to jump the gun with the Hassan Reddick contract, because if you overpay, now you might be losing 2 guys instead of 1. On the other hand, Reddick's contract, not guaranteed. Makes complete sense that he doesn't want to show up until training camp. Make sure he's healthy and make sure that he has every opportunity to capitalize on the situation he's going to be in. So I think there has to be a lot of nuance with it. That is lost many times in this day and age, because once again, the littlest spark gets flared and now everyone thinks it's the biggest deal in the world. If we're having this discussion on July 23rd, July 24th, and the Jets still have no idea where Reddick is, completely different discussion. Then you can start to worry. You can start to be like, why did they even trade for this guy?
Right.
But it's they're practicing in shorts and t-shirts. Edge rushers don't get much out of these practices. So it's one of these things where, hey, it's something to keep an eye on, but just relax.
Now, could it be that they're not giving him a contract extension? Maybe, I don't know. Quite possibly, maybe they're looking at another play to bring in. Let's say a Justin Simmons. I know a lot of Jet fans think that Saleh doesn't value the safety position that much. I don't agree with that. I mean, an all-in year, you don't want to go into the season with any weaknesses or whatnot. And I'm like blown away that the Dolphins signed Marcus May before Simmons and Quandre Diggs. I don't know. Is there something going on with Justin Simmons that no one knows about?
Right. Now, Dan, before we get into that real quick, Brandon, I just wanted to ask you, just getting back on Hassan Reddick for 1 second, what kind of contract would you give him if you were Joe Douglas?
It all depends on how they are, because this is something where it's having a bearing on the future, not just the present, right? Because it's not like, oh, we pay Reddick and now we don't have to worry about anything. This contract has a bearing on Carter and Reed and the rest of the guys coming up for extensions. The way I would probably do it is tack on 1 year to this year and guarantee the money this year, where, okay, now the 15 mil, let's say it's around 12 or 13, but it's guaranteed. And then you raise that number to, let's say, 20, where he's now in that top 10-ish range of edge rushers. And then maybe you tack on a third team option where you can decide from there. Something that isn't breaking the bank, but it's serving the purpose of Reddick's getting that last payday. And now it's not. Now it's a situation that isn't a distraction anymore, essentially.
Right. Okay.
Right. Now, guys, I want to bring on another guest here. We met on one of these Jets Twitter spaces, and he is a super Jets fan. He wears his passion on his sleeves. I know he's gonna, cut down on the cursing, but I love his energy because he just spits a lot of facts, and there's something special about what he says when he talks about the pride of the New York Jets fan that has been lost over the years, especially this year, this offseason. With that, I will say, welcome aboard, Tyleek. What's going on?
What's up, man? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear, man. Let's go.
Welcome, Tyleek.
Man. Good day to be a Jet fan, man. For future AFC East champs, man. I'm trying to tell you guys. Trying to tell everybody, honestly.
Right.
Trying to get everybody on the board. But yeah, man, I just wanted to talk about a little bit what you were saying about the Jet fans, man. Like, if you follow me on Twitter, like I'm real, like always trolling the other AFC East teams, like, and I do that because like I see a lot of the environments and atmospheres that are like set for Jet fans, and like it just feels like a lot of fan bases want us to like bow down to them. And if you really look at the history of our division outside of the Pats, it's been chaotic, it's been superfluous, it's been a bunch of chaos. So to hear like, you know, Dolphin fans or Bills fans
the worst
to sit there and try to tell us to bow down to them is just like ridiculous to me, you know, like, you know, with the Bills, you know, they're always like, you know, putting their nose up at us, and it's just like, you guys had a longer playoff drought than us, you know?
Let me tell you something about the Dolphins real quick. 23 years. That's how long it's been since they won a playoff game.
Yeah, man.
All
I was
right?
still, my
Bill
mom was teaching
Clinton
me how to
was
learn
in
to
office.
potty. My mom was teaching me how to learn the potty at this time, man. And like for Jets fans, man, we've been through it all, man. Like, you should be happy. Like, as I've been watching this team, a majority of my life, they haven't been in the playoffs. This is the most talent I've seen this team have in 10 years plus, you know? Like, so be excited about that. I feel like a lot of Jet fans will look at some of these moves and they'll like the scarring and the PTSD comes into play, you know, where it's like, are they gonna be on the field? Like, you know what? At the end of the day, Tyron Smith is a all-pro. He was an all-pro last year. He's a Hall of Fame guy. People want to hate on Aaron Rodgers. Let me tell you something about Aaron Rodgers, man. We're looking at one of the most vain superstars in all of sports. This guy,
give me that.
This guy loves the negativity. Every single time that he's counted out, he's came back and played lights out with his hair on fire. We don't necessarily need him to be a world-beating Aaron Rodgers, but like you'd be lying if you didn't think that he was going to come out next year and try to show everyone like, listen, I'm still him, you know? Like, and I just feel as though like this is going to be our year, man. Like, outside of if you look back at the multiple years, right? This is the weakest the Bills have been in years. They can try to sit there and cope about their wide receiver group, but that wide receiver group isn't really moving anyone. Like, you know, like, and I feel as though that they're overestimating. Like, I think they're trying to emulate the Kansas City Chiefs, where you see that Andy Reid and them didn't want that premier outside guy, but they're like feeding Travis Kelce and they'll get by because Pat Mahomes will elevate. I'm not saying Josh Allen isn't great, but I will say Sean McDermott isn't Andy Reid, and I will say that Dalton Kincaid isn't no Travis Kelce. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like there are a lot of question marks. So don't allow, like, as a Jet fan, if somebody is talking down on you as a Bill fan, like, don't let them. There's a lot of mental gymnastics going on here. You know, people don't want to accept the fact that our roster right now, as constructed, is the best it's been in a while, arguably top 5 in the NFL. So people are going to revert to that conversation and be like, you know, what have you guys won? Or when's the last time you won a Super Bowl? And when people start doing that, that puts a smile on my face. It's just like, I see what you guys are doing here, man. Like, you don't want to accept that the Jets could be good this year, you know? In regards to
I kind of like it that way.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure. Look, it just makes winning that much sweeter. As much as people, please keep counting us out at the end of the day. We have suffered so much as Jet fans, where it's to, like, say if I am wrong, right? I'm wrong that this, like, and the season goes off the rails. I'm not going to experience anything that I haven't experienced already as a fan of this team.
Right. Exactly.
You know, last year was the icing on the cake whenever he went down in 4 plays. That, like, you know, for a lot of people that I know that are older than me that are Jet fans, they went through the Vinny Testaverde thing. I didn't go through that. Ooh. So now I've officially completed my resume when it comes to what I've experienced in lows and lows of a team. So it's like, if you're like, stick your chest out, stand on the team, be excited that we got superstars on the team. You know, like, we got our young cores hitting year 3. They should be peaking in the NFL this coming year. Breece Hall, you see it, man. You see it, the 20. He's probably, to me, he's looking like an offensive player of the year candidate next year when it comes to what I feel like they're going to do, you know? So, like, it's okay to accept that we have nice things as Jet fans, you know? But, like, yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. And, like, Hassan Reddick, don't be worried about that, man. He's going to play for us 2K24. Like, he is. At the end of the day, it would be more detrimental to his career if he did not play. He's going into a contract year. Who is going, and he wants a long-term deal. Who's going to commit to him long-term if he shows that he's not, like, if he cares about money and he's not going to play for the team, you know? Like, Aaron Rodgers, blame that on Robert Saleh. As much as, like, you get what I mean? Like, the guy in front of the mic is so awkward and just can't deliver and really convey anything, and people just take everything he says and runs with it because he doesn't know what to do, like, behind the mic. So it's like, take that as a Robert Saleh slight and not an Aaron Rodgers slight. The guy has been there for every voluntary OTA, every voluntary workout. He's been in the facilities after he got cleared. This is the most locked in Rodgers I've ever seen. Like, in like a while. And I seen the guy be a fat Keanu Reeves in the off season and be tripping on ayahuasca and come in and be
that's Shane Falco to you, man.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, have some confidence in the guy, and anybody who's saying, oh, he's Aaron Rodgers, 41 years old, man, this guy is one of the greats of the NFL. It's more far-fetched to say that he's going to fall off a cliff and be ineffective as a QB than to say he's not going to be, than to say he is going to be a star in this league, because we've all seen it. And even that last year, 3/4 of the NFL would have vied for that kind of production. And if we got that production last year, we're an 11-12 win team. So let's be real, like we're cooking with grease right now.
Well, that's
catastrophic injuries. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be a great team.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, right? Like the same thing. And again, guys, did I lie? I mean, T's just bringing the fire right now, and that's exactly what it's all about. Don't get all worked up. It's June. The real deal happens in about less than 35 days or something like that. Training camp, everyone's locked in. Everyone. I mean, and it all starts with Aaron Rodgers. He's 100% vested in this organization. Now, Brandon, I just wanted to pick your brain on this here. Is there a certain position where you think that maybe Joe Douglas is saying, all right, you know what? We're a little weak here. There are some players out there, but I would have to probably restructure some deals, maybe the Quinnen deal or whatnot. And I'm talking about free agency and also trade. So, Brandon, what do you think? After Brandon, we'll go to Monty.
So there's two that come to my mind immediately. And I think the way I would look at it is during training camp and then during the season. I think during training camp, the one you're looking at the most is safety. Right. Because it's the room that probably has the least amount of quote unquote name brand talent, but you have a lot of potential options there, whether it is Chuck Clark coming off the injury, who I think is going to be a really nice piece as a sure tackler in the safety spot, something that Jets haven't had in a while. Whether it is Tony Adams, seeing how does he take a step forward in his second year as a starter, looking at Ashton Davis, what does he bring to the table? Jalen Kate. I think how those guys perform in training camp is going to dictate what they do at the position. If half the safeties in the room look lost and it is looking like a glaring weak spot on the team, I think you do see Douglas go out and try to find someone. If the safeties are holding their own, and let's face it, safety isn't the most important position on the field, especially for the Jets, when you have cornerbacks like Sauce Gardner, like DJ Reed, like Michael Carter II, and also linebackers like Mosley and Quincy Williams. So I think that's the one, at least during training camp, where it's going to be very, very interesting. During the season, it's wide receiver without a doubt, because it's not about the guys that are starting. It's more so about their depth. Because Garrett Wilson, I think everybody who has watched the practice, has watched the highlights, thinks he's in for a big year with Aaron Rodgers. Then you go down the list a little bit, right? Mike Williams, if everything goes right, you would expect a big season from him, being the deep threat this team's needed. Malachi Corley, if he makes the steps he needs to in his rookie year, and that's never a guarantee as a rookie wide receiver, he'll be a fun piece. And then what are you getting from Xavier Gibson? What are you getting from Jason Brownlee? Are you getting anything from Alan Lazard? So you take a look at that room, injury or two happens, it's a much different combination than what you're entering the season with. So I think the Jets are going to monitor that during training camp, not really make an addition because they're going to let things play out in a few games. And if they see that they need to pull a trigger on a guy, I'm sure there will be someone available to trade for. It might not be the star. It might not be Devontae Adams. But that's the position I feel like as you approach the season is going to be the one that the Jets have their biggest eye on because of the shaky track records of everyone outside of Garrett Wilson, whether it's because their rookies are young players and haven't really displayed enough, or they're older guys and slightly injured. So it's safety and wide receiver for the most part for me.
Monty, what do you got?
Yeah, so safety for sure for me. I mean, you got a ton of talent still on the market out there. I mean, it's not like we're going to be looking at Jamal Adams, I don't think, ever again. But Simmons is out there, Jackson's out there, Diggs, Walker. You got a lot of names. You got a lot of and exactly as Brandon said, there's not a lot of name brand talent in our safety room. And we really need to make sure at all levels we are performing at high efficiency. Also, as we've heard the reports, Sauce Gardner will be traveling this year to cover and lock down on opposing teams' top receivers. So
long overdue.
Right, which is long overdue. But how does that impact the rest of our secondary? He's going to be maybe a little bit more busy. So we need that extra firepower there to make sure that we are covering everyone else. Because I mean, you saw kind of what happened to us when we didn't have Sauce traveling. When they had Jalen Waddle, go for 100-something yards and a score against us, which was totally preventable. So we can't just rely on our corners, even though we have great corners. We need to make sure that we have safety to kind of help lock things down in the coverage situation. So yeah, totally agree on safety. I'm not sure I fully agree on the wide receiver or receiver, just because I think we have so many targets, and I think Aaron Rodgers is going to do Aaron Rodgers things. We already see it in practice. He's doing the no-look passes. He's hitting the tight windows. He's hitting Kenny Yeboah. He's getting Kenny Yeboah involved. He's getting, he's bringing everyone. He's going to elevate Conklin, I think, for sure. We have Breece Hall, who, was the number one receiving back in terms of receiving yards last year in the league. He's another target. We got targets we are not starved for targets. I do agree that, with Mike Williams kind of shakiness, if Corley doesn't pan out, that could be a little bit of an opportunity or threat for us. But I don't know. I'm a lot more optimistic on that situation working out. I think even if Mike Williams gets hurt and misses extended time, I think, between our tight ends, between our running backs, and also don't forget Braylon Allen is catching passes all over the place in OTAs. This guy is an absolute stud. So imagine you had, they do like a double running back situation. You have, Breece, you have, Allen going different ways coming out of the backfield. I mean, that's scary, especially as big as Allen is, for him to be able to catch passes. That's like, so I think we're not starved for targets. I do see what you're saying, Brandon, but I think we are in a great place as far as targets for Rodgers to hit. I think he'll even elevate Allen Lazard too. I know Allen Lazard has had a rough, shaky start. I don't know what's up with him, but he was serviceable every other year he played with Rodgers. Why would he suddenly just suck now? I think he's just got to knock some rust off and he'll be okay. I think we'll be in a good spot receiver wise. So yeah, so the only position where I'm a little bit shaky or a little bit kind of concerned about is free safety. And I think with all the cap room that we can make from restructuring, I think Joe D just needs to work his magic, and we'll be able to pull someone in to fill the void.
Now, I don't think we touched on this, and I didn't even know this. I'm actually just like doing some research right now. The Jets signed Takk McKinley today.
Yep.
Yeah.
Defensive endman. I mean,
another pass rusher. Now, do you think that this has anything to do with the Hassan Reddick situation?
Nah, that's no. It's two different levels, man. It's like
100%.
Yeah. So it's I mean, look, we're pretty, we're not doing too badly at the edge rusher position. We have 2 top 25 picks, 2 first rounders, McDonald, in his second year, JJ in his third year. We're in a pretty okay spot, even if God forbid something were to happen and the worst were to happen with Reddick and it didn't work out. I wouldn't love that. Don't get me wrong. I think Reddick could still be and still should be a pivotal part of our pass rush situation, but I think our pass rush is in a good place to, so I don't know if this is anything more than a depth signing.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. Not only that, I'm just going to chime in with the entire defense. This defense for the past 3 years, they have been exhausted by the beginning of the fourth quarter. They're just done. There's no quarterback. Now with Aaron Rodgers there, so many people just forget about this aspect. They always kind of focus on the offense, what he can do with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and the tight ends. What Aaron Rodgers means to our defense, which is a top 5 defense right now. To me, in which I'm gonna raise my hand here. I did not like the rotation shit. Excuse my language. I did not like that. I didn't like it from the get-go. It's just disrupting this and that. You know what? With this here, with the pass rushers, the elite pass rushers that we have, keep signing them. Keep signing them. Break the Jets record of what the sack exchange had, of the sacks. Because this defense that we have right now, with Ulbrich leading it as our defensive coordinator, dude, the offenses like Kansas City, Cincinnati, all these high echelon firepower offenses, they're scared of the New York Jets defense. Why? Because they're going to be well rested in game. When it's the fourth quarter, it's going to feel like the second quarter to them because of what Rodgers is going to bring up. Again, imagine this defense heading into halftime, coming out of halftime with a 13, 17, or 20-point lead. It's pin your ears back and go full throttle. That's why I think after the season, a lot of players on the defense, they're gonna ask for a lot of money in 2025. A lot.
Hey Dan, can you hear me, Dan?
Yeah, go for it.
Man, I completely agree with you, man. And it's like, I'll even take it a step further, man. Like, having Aaron Rodgers and even having him behind center is going to affect the play calling of the other offense. It is. Because you've seen a lot of teams last year play us where if they would go up a touchdown, they would kind of pack it in and start playing really, really conservative football because they felt as though that we needed 3 possessions because we weren't scoring touchdowns. So it's like, we could just run the clock off because they need 3 possessions in order to get any kind of lead on us because they're not scoring touchdowns, So like, say if like a team goes up a touchdown, they're no longer feeling that sense of security because they know we have 8 back there,
Yep.
And it's just gonna, and not only that, man, like, what was the criticisms of our defense last year, like the lack of turnovers and the run defense. So I feel as though those numbers were inflated because a lot of teams, like I said, were playing conservatively and running the football a lot. Plus the loss of Al Woods was pretty big. And who's going to throw the ball when they're up and they feel like they feel like their lead is safe? They're just going to run the ball away, like smart. That's just smart football, Yep. And I feel like our defense got caught a couple times, giving up sometimes. That game against Miami, that blowout, I think it's very, like, people always like bring that up.
T, you're under the water.
Got a little muffled there, T.
Sorry, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, much better. You're out of the water.
Sorry about that. But I feel like people look at that game and they be like, "Oh, you see, like, we blew y'all out even with your defense intact." But people don't understand that because we weren't able to sustain like drives, we were giving them plus territory all the time in that game. Yep. So it's like, what can you do? Like, it's so impressive to me with this defense because it's just like they're 3rd ranked statistically and rated, but they're on the field all the time. Yeah. So what does this defense look like when they're not on the field the whole time? And like you said, can pin their ears back. Like I'm really excited to see
scary.
What happens. Like, yeah, I would say though, like to say what you guys were talking about with position wise, the wide receiver, the depth it gets a little choppy after Corley. It does. So if one of those top 3 guys either don't pan out or like are injured or not healthy, it gets a little icky there for me. But for me, I want them to get another interior offensive lineman. Like, I think that like we need another interior offensive lineman because if you look at it as constructed right now, our insurance policy there is Wes Schweitzer. I'm not really too comfortable with that. No. Like, I'm not. Like, Do
you see them bringing in Bakhtiari?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just feel like that would be a really, really, like, that's a really, really crowded tackle room at this point.
Yeah.
Like that, like honestly, like with Olu, I'll be honest with you, man. During the draft, I wanted the weapon, man. I was all in on getting a weapon, either Roma Dunze or Brock Bowers. But like, we got Olu Fashanu, and he needs to stay off the field as much as possible for me. I feel as though he needs to stay at left tackle. I see a lot of people like saying that they want to like move him out of position. Like, how, like, looking at the history of the Jets, how many guys have we moved and they've gotten hurt? Like, the guy is the best left tackle pure pass blocking left tackle coming out of college. Let him learn again. Let him learn behind a gold jacket guy, and fine sharpen his tools. So by the time he's on the field, he'll be really, really good, you know. But interior offensive line to me is just like a very, very glaring hole, man. Like I just feel as though we have AVT out there, which I love, but are we completely confident in that? Like as much as I know that he has all pro production when he's on the field, calling a spade there, I'm not really 100% confident on the durability. So. And I'm not comfortable with having Wes Schweitzer on starting at all. So it's like we need another guy out there, another guy in that room.
Well, weirdly, if you're a superstitious guy, really quick, we're not playing Denver this year, and both of AVT's injuries were in Denver. So for whatever that's worth, it's not happening this year.
Denver's coming here.
Denver's coming
right?
here, but we're not playing in Denver. And then and then also he's not going to be switching positions this year either. So, if you look, his injuries have been in a situation where he's out of position and playing not, in a field, I guess, that he is accustomed to. I don't know. It probably doesn't have anything to do with that, but it's just an interesting factoid.
Zach's not making that team, dude. I'm telling you guys right now, Zach is not making that team.
Did you hear what Sean Payton said? They're like a bunch of orphans.
What? Really?
Yeah, no, he said that the quarterback room is like a bunch of orphans. Oh,
that guy is like the worst fit for
Brandon, did you hear that? He said orphans or orphan dogs? Was it orphan
even
dogs?
better.
It was something. It was something along the lines, and then they asked Wilson about it. But it's like the analogy is basically, I think he's saying like the quarterback room's essentially a bunch of cast-offs outside of, I guess, Bo Nix because he's a first-round pick.
But he lumped them in with them too, though. That's the strange thing. You lumped in your first-round draft pick quarterback with Zach Wilson and Jared Stidham.
Not usually a great sign, but
not good.
I just feel like he's the worst fit for Sean Payton, man. Like you're talking about one of the most emotionally volatile coaches in the NFL.
That kid's gonna be.
You think he's gonna be able to You think he's gonna tolerate some of the boneheaded stuff that Zach Wilson does?
No way.
Absolutely
no way.
No, I don't think he's making the roster at all.
I think he makes the roster just because I think they give him a year. I think they're gonna give him one season, see what he can do.
I mean, you look at the Texans game, and you see there's something there. I mean, the kid can play. He's a practice squad guy easily. I think.
Oh yeah, definitely a body you would want in the running your scout team,
third string scout team. I think he finds his little. He carves out his little niche, but I don't see him as a starter ever again.
Not gonna lie, man. He had me fooled after that Titans throw, man. I was all in after that Titans.
I went to that game. Dude, when he pointed out, no, that wasn't the rain, man. That was it week 3 or week 4?
It was week 3. So. It was week 3 of that year.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking about this past year.
I was talking about his rookie year. Whenever he pointed to Corey Davis and threw that dart.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think what he truly needs is to actually sit behind a veteran quarterback. Like what we were supposed to do to him last year. I think that is kind of like because the physical talent's there. It is there. It's all up here. I've been saying this since he got drafted. It's all the mental. So maybe somebody like a Sean Payton, I don't know if he's going to be like the best kind of coach for him because he is a hard ass, but like you go from Robert Saleh, who's the nicest guy in the world, to Sean Payton. It's a big difference. But
I just hope he starts against the Jets. Because then you'll really realize the hate that this defense has towards them. Like the pure hatred, like you held us back this far.
Quentin Williams is gonna kill him.
Just completely. Like Jets and rookie QBs, like oil and water, man. It's insane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, now, so much. There's no way that like the Dolphins dropped 30 on us if he's not our, quarterback, or what I mean. Yeah. If we're not hurting at quarterback because of him not playing up to par, there's no way all that stuff happens. So yeah, I'm sure the defense would have played their butts off and held it down, and a decent quarterback would have had us in that game and competitive, and
anybody besides Zach. Anybody but Zach.
Or Tim Boyle. Like
the Jets found one quarterback worse than Zach Wilson and said, we need him on the roster.
I don't know what Tim Boyle has on someone in the NFL. I don't know how he keeps getting on NFL rosters.
I think he was the rat. I think he was the rat too.
Mm-hmm. He was the one.
Yeah, he was the one.
The guy leaking the stuff about
yeah, because he was released right after that.
It's got to be.
Absolutely.
I'm going to pose something here for the panel and also for the chat, and I want to see if you guys bite. All right, so it's right before the trade deadline. Jets are doing great. There's no key injuries on offense. Wide receivers, they're just flying high. The Raiders are not doing too good at all. They're not doing good. They're maybe eliminated. Do you call the Vegas Raiders and offer a first round pick for Davante Adams?
Yes.
Would it cost that much, you think?
I don't think it would take a first.
Probably a
I don't
second.
think it wouldn't cost that much.
Probably a second. But just to lock him in, because if it's only going to be a second, then there's going to be a lot of teams vying for his services. And again, the Chiefs are that type of team that they come out of nowhere and they just scoop them up. So for me as a Jet fan, I'm like, this is an all-in year. And if we're freaking 5-0 or 6-1, whatever the case is, I don't even know what week the deadline is, but
I think it's 8
or 8. Yeah. Like if you're 7-1 or 6-2, do you call them up and say, all right, you know what, just in case, God forbid, we're on this run in something. I'm not even going to speak it into existence. You guys kind of know where I'm going. God forbid, at least you got Davante Adams here.
It would be great, but I think the biggest impediment to that is cap and contract. We just wouldn't be able to. We wouldn't be able to. I know. We can always kind of fabricate more. It is. I always say this too, but I think in that situation mid-year with kind of all those contracts that we have on all those, big studs that we have on, on roster, I just don't see us being able to afford it. But if just following the hypothetical, if we could afford it, I say, you make the call, because, this is we're trying to go for a Super Bowl here. We didn't bring Aaron Rodgers here. We didn't put this roster together. We didn't get all these aging studs who are not going to be here in a couple of years, like Tyron Smith and all these other guys, Mike Williams and all these other people who may only be here for a short time. We didn't put this team together to make the wild card, to make a wild card spot. We're trying to go for it all.
Now,
say to that, sorry, Dan.
No, go ahead.
What I say to that is, like, it might not even cost as much because we're inheriting like an in-season contract. Like, we don't have him for the full season. Like, I don't even care if he doesn't come back next year. If we win the Super Bowl, like, I'm cool with this just being like a hit it and quit it kind of deal. Just get us through these next 15 games or so, however many is left, and just roll with it. I don't think it would take that much, especially because, like, the Raiders are in like a weird situation because it's like a half rebuild, but they still have some talent. So it's a little strange there. Obviously, Davante Adams said all the right things. Oh yeah, I'm so excited to be a Raider now because we have Antonio Pierce, because he's not a diva. He's not going to go out there and say, like, I don't want to be here. He's at least, I think, willing to let it play out for the next couple weeks and see what happens. But I don't think it's going to take that much to get him.
Like, you hear Aaron Rodgers talk about Davante Adams, and you could see that gleam.
Oh, dude, and it's two ways too, man, with Davante as well. Like, say if they are like, say if they are in a situation in which they're not good. The reason why Davante went there anyway was to go play with Derek Carr, so like, and he's done it, and like Liam said, like, he's done everything the right way, So I don't think that, like, if Davante goes to their front office, and even Antonio Pierce himself, like, I think they would advocate a deal for him. I think they would make a deal. I don't think it would take first round price though, considering the money and considering the age. I don't think it would take a first, but absolutely, if you are, like, at a point in the season where you feel as though, like, wow, we're like right there. We just want that one explosive piece to excuse my language. Sorry about that.
No,
we just want that one piece to bring us over the top. Absolutely. But I don't want it to be a situation in which they hamper themselves in the future. I think that there is a workaround with the money because it kind of lines up with the window a little bit. Mm-hmm. But, like, I'm not a cap guy, so I don't know the logistics of that. But, like, if there is an opportunity in which you could work a situation out, you absolutely have to do that. And let's be real here. If Aaron Rodgers knows that too, I guarantee you he's going to be the first person at Joe Douglas' office, like, go get me my guy. right now.
Yeah.
He'll restructure. He'll be one of the first ones to restructure him, Quinnen. The reason why I placed a first round tender on him, even though it'll be deep into the season, is because now if you look at it from the Raiders' standpoint, who would they rather trade him to, right? The NFC, right? They don't want to trade him to I say KC because the Chiefs always find a way. I'm going to throw that there. The Rams and the Lions, right? Let's say they come to bat and they're like, look, we'll give you a second and a third. But if the Jets came out of nowhere, because they also play in the same conference as the Raiders, I think they would have no other choice but to give up that first. Now, and I get what you're saying, team, with the future and whatnot. I think the moment we sign Aaron Rodgers, we mortgage 3 years of the future. Like straight up, we have I couldn't care less about 2026, 2027. We all know that this is going to be, it's going to get blown up. We're going to start from scratch. And I'm hoping that we're going to be coming off of the cusp of a Super Bowl run. And Jordan Travis is that guy. No one talks about him. And I get it. He's like an afterthought, right? He doesn't have a strong arm, which I don't buy. I mean,
I think you have to, Scott.
That's a good question, though. If he has a no trade clause.
Oh, that's true. That brings up a good point.
Why wouldn't he approve playing with his best friend though, or one of his best friends?
That would be his first choice.
He just left someone.
Yeah.
I like this too. I want to ask you guys. I like this question. Do you guys see anybody like a surprise player stepping up, like whether it does be like a Corley or maybe like Allen Lazard has a bounce back season, or Gibson, Brownlee? What do you guys think? I guess I'll start with Brandon.
Well, I mean, it kind of ties in with the previous question, right? Because for me, everything in a vacuum, all things equal, you're absolutely pulling the trigger on Davante Adams, because that creates a duo with Garrett Wilson, that along with Mike Williams, etc., that not many teams are going to be able to cover.
Just imagine.
Let's not forget about
exactly.
I got a question for you guys.
But what do you call it? The main thing when it comes to that is, what does the rest of the wide receiver room's production look like at that point of the season?
Sure.
Because look, Garrett Wilson, he's the guy. He's going to be there regardless. But if Mike Williams is putting up a year where he's on track to have over 1,000 yards and let's say 5 touchdowns, and Corley is doing his thing as the number 3, you're adding Davante, and now you're taking one of those guys off the field. So now you're trading capital for something that is shaking up the flow of an offense that's working. I think that's a part of it where it shouldn't explicitly prevent you from taking the swing on Davante, but I think it's also a matter of, hey, if we got this thing rolling and we don't need to give up the early draft capital, whether it is a 1, whether it is a 2, I think that's the preferred option the team would take, in the sense of, now if you go into the offseason and you need to add a wideout because Mike Williams is getting a big offer from another team, well, guess what? Now you do have your first, and you can target a receiver in a class that looks to be pretty good again. Or you can target a guy in the second round, or in that set off season, you can trade for someone that lines up better with the window that you're in. So it all depends. I think Corley could be that guy. I need to see it in training camp first, need to see what it looks like on the field. I think Xavier Gibson's a dark horse, where Rodgers has been targeting him in the offseason already. What does he look like in year 2? Does he take that step? Does he become one of those guys for Rodgers that he loves just dumping the ball off to in space and he creates 15 yards after the catch? So It all depends how it looks on the field, because like I said, if the wideouts look good, you can just roll with it and everything's great and Rodgers is making the offense hum and the Jets are actually have a functional offense for the first time in years. If that receiver depth is still a question, and let's say Corley is making strides but not enough in an all-in year, and Williams is nicked up, and Gibson didn't take the steps you need forward, that's when the Davante trade becomes like, hey, this is something that we actually slightly need to do, and will just reinforce a position that isn't performing. So it all depends what it looks like on the field.
That's a great point, man. That's a great point.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys, though. And my boy Lee John is gonna hate me for saying this because
he's the man. Love Lee John.
He's the best. He's the biggest Devontae Adams advocate, man. And I am too. I'm all aboard on the Devontae Adams to the Jets train. But I'm looking at this offense, man, and I'm making a lot of parallels to the offenses that they were running down in Green Bay whenever Nathaniel Hackett was the OC and Aaron Rodgers had won a couple MVPs. I'm looking at a lot of parallels as to what do they look at Braylon Allen as? Because they were running a lot of 2-back sets there as to with AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. I can see a parallel there with Breece Hall being the Aaron Jones and Braylon Allen being the AJ Dillon.
AJ Dillon, yep.
I can see a lot of parallels even with the Devontae to Garrett Wilson with that game. And if you even look at the receivers that they had back then outside of Devontae Adams, they didn't really have anybody. There really wasn't no needle pusher. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like piggybacking off what Brandon said. Is that does that say Brandon? Yes.
Yeah, Brandon.
Okay. Piggybacking off what he said, it might be a situation in which if it clicks on all cylinders and that is what they were trying to go for, and it might be just too crowded of a room. Where's that production going to go, and whose food are you going to take off of their plate at that point? And that might just mess up the chemistry. I don't think that would happen, but it is a fair thought process to think about. Where it's to are there going to be too many mouths to feed in this offense if we do grab a Devontae Adams?
And especially Garrett, he's going to want that 1,000 yards again because he's the only player in Jets history to have 2 back-to-back first year and second year 1,000+ yard seasons. And that's only really going to help his contract situation. Yeah, it's only going to make it more expensive for Joe Douglas, which I'm okay with. If you're producing, I want you on this team. Now, Devontae, most likely, it does take some reps away, but just imagine that high-powered offense right there. Aaron Rodgers is not going to know he's going to be creaming his pants. He's going to be so excited. He's not going to know what to do with himself.
Pause.
He has his best. Pause.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A long delay.
And
he has his best friend.
I feel like Scott in the chat is reading my thoughts, man, because he just mentioned Conklin there too.
Yep.
Completely agree because that's a huge one. You know what I mean?
You guys want
Rodgers had just about targets in general. I mean, Rodgers had Robert Tonyan, made him look like friggin' Jimmy Graham in his prime. Just a touchdown machine. And he wasn't anybody special, Robert Tonyan. And Conklin is, in my opinion, a better talent. Much better talent.
The good thing about Conklin is he's so underrated. Look at his numbers. He's close to 1,000 yards with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, Streveler, Mike White, with all these guys. Imagine with Aaron Rodgers how much that could elevate.
He's improved every year
too.
I think he would
have that breakout season with Ruckert too. I really believe so.
I think he would improve, man. But I'm just a little bit lower on Conklin than you guys, just in regards to what we need in this offense of what Aaron Rodgers has shown that he can excel in. Meaning I'm not really too big of a fan of Tyler Conklin's yak ability, and I'm not really too big of a fan of his scoring capabilities. I just feel like he doesn't score the ball a lot. Even in Minnesota when he was with Kirk, he didn't score a lot. Is there an opportunity where I was actually having a debate on this on Twitter with my homie CB. It could be a scenario in which maybe he'll be a red zone guy, given Aaron Rodgers immaculate ball placement. He could be a guy where he gets paid a lot more. Mm-hmm. I just like the guy. I like weapons where we can. Aaron Rodgers likes to throw the ball at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage, meaning that's going to be really dependent on that receiver that was catching the ball to be able to make a play and get yards after the catch. I'm not too confident in Conklin doing that, and I think he's an okay player though. I do say that.
I want to reel it right back in because of something that you guys alluded to. Now, Aaron Rodgers in those 2 NFL MVP years that he had with Hackett, right? What did he need more in order to win the Super Bowl? Did he need an elite defense at that point? What are the Jets giving him now, this year, 2024, that those Green Bay Packer teams did not have? To me, it's the defense, and it's specialty players as well. that we're still not done with. I think by the time we're at probably 5 games in, we're going to have a good idea what this offense is all about. And I get Aaron Rodgers is our offensive coordinator here. But again, the identity of this offense, we really don't know yet, right? Could it be what Peyton Manning was when he won that Super Bowl? It was very run heavy. Now we have Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. Or could it be Tom Brady's first year with the Buccaneers where he just went wild? He just went nuts and it went through him. And he was the sole leader and the main reason they won that Super Bowl. But it was a good coupling of legit defense.
For sure, bro.
Do the Jets have more as a team than those 2 Green Bay Packer teams had with that NFL?
Without
MVP?
a shadow of a doubt, bro. If you even look at it too, with like Green Bay's history, I would argue they're giving him more defensively than a majority of his entire career in Green Bay. If you look at, like, you know, a lot of people always like to dunk on Aaron Rodgers for the playoff losses, right? Let's look at the context. I will admit and concede the fact that that game against San Francisco was a dud, when he had 3 opportunities to score and either take the lead or tie it up. I will agree that was a dud. But if you really do break it down and look at the losses, his defenses allowed 33.5 points a game in those losses. Yep. If you look at the greats in the NFL as well, they've also had duds in the playoffs. But instead of losing the game, they were able to lean into their defense and become and edge those games out. You know what I mean? And we'll set the bar with the greatest of all time, with Tom Brady, right? Mm-hmm. Tom Brady, I remember reading a stat somewhere where he had 16 out of 48 of his playoff starts, he had less than an 80 passer rating. They're actually, 19 of them. They're actually 11-8 in those games, and on 7 different occasions, his defense allowed 16 points or less. Rodgers has only scored 20 points, like less than 20 points in the playoffs, twice in his career. You know, you get what I'm trying to say here?
Yeah,
you know what I'm trying to push here?
Huge.
Where it's to, like, you gotta look at the context of the situation. Obviously, you know he's a great, and you want to see him have more Super Bowls. But for a guy who's only had a top defense twice in his career, and the one time, and out of the 2 of those times he was a Super Bowl champion, you got to be confident with his defense.
Yeah, real quick, just to add to that, the Packers are 124 and 25. That's their record when they were with Aaron Rodgers, when they allowed less than 25 points.
Holy smokes!
There's an even crazier one. When his defense with the 18 points. Yep. I don't remember it offhand, but I know you.
So if the defense held under 18 points, Aaron Rodgers won 80% of his games,
and he's actually undefeated in Monday Night Football as well.
Yeah. So I mean, what Aaron Rodgers can do is unparalleled on the field. I think that we've seen that. The MVPs, the tight throws, the Super Bowl win, listen, we're spoiled in this generation, right?
Oh yeah.
The multiple Super Bowl win by a quarterback thing, that's not a thing that happens, right? If you have 2 Super Bowls as a QB, that's amazing. As far as QBs go in the all-time history of QBs in the NFL. So the fact that Aaron Rodgers only has 1. I'm not really
we're discounting Super Bowls now.
Right. You know what I mean? It's like it's just crazy to me. And honestly, one last thing, which is kind of a sidestep from it, is a lot of people are discounting this. The Jets are without a doubt going to be a running team. That's why we got Braylon Allen. That's why we have so many running backs on the roster. That's why we have the linemen that we have. The linemen that we have are like power rushing guys. Like, these are guys that can just run and steamroll people. We are going to pound the rock. So it's not necessarily, it's possible that we don't have like MVP Aaron Rodgers, but he's still going to be great. And I don't know if we need him to be like, the next. We don't need him to be MVP Aaron Rodgers. He's going to throw the football. He's going to do Aaron Rodgers things. But, this team can get it done between the defense, between the running game. We're going to be a lot more balanced than a lot of people think. It's going to be a lot less on his
offense runs through Breece.
Well, that's a hot topic right there, right? Like, a lot of fans, even from the outside, are saying, all right, you guys are going to be more running than anything else. And you're like, yeah, we have a solid offensive line. We have freaking Brees, and hopefully Braylon Allen comes into his own. But the counter argument is that we're trying to coddle Aaron Rodgers. We're trying to make sure that he doesn't get injured again. And I don't buy that. I don't buy it. I look at a quarterback that still has all the intangibles. He's all in mentally. It's just that we're playing to our strength, which is a mauler type of offensive line. Granted, hopefully that they stay healthy. That's why I like the Olu draft pick, because Tyron looks amazing. If Tyron plays all 17 games, well, I'm going to say 20 games, we're good. We're beautiful. I'm good. I'm golden. But if he doesn't and Olu comes in, we're not missing a step. We're not. And again, Brees is going to be an animal in this. And this is something I want to kind of segue in. It's everything's going to go off the rails here. Now,
here we go.
Let's go.
Year 3 is coming up for Sauce, Jermaine Johnson, Brees Hall, and Garrett. Now, I'm looking at a big year out of all 4 of them, like big time. You guys are going to call me crazy. I'm looking at 1,300 yards for Garrett. I'm looking at probably 1,200 yards for Brees. And JJ, guys, I'm thinking 15 sacks.
Oh,
I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that. Now,
You had
how many interceptions with Sauce?
Yes, that's another one. I'm looking at probably 5. Probably 5.
You had me until JJ, man. I just feel like there's a lot of guys that are going to be getting sacks. I don't know if 15 is going to be 15 is a pretty gaudy number.
JJ's motor is ridiculous. That guy is, and again, like you have Hassan Reddick on the other side. It's going to open that much more. There's not going to be double, like offenses. They're not going to have any idea who to double. And that's the beauty of this defense. Now, after this season, those 4 players may want new contracts. How do you guys go through this? I mean, we had this discussion in one of the spaces on Sunday. How do you go with it? Like, let's say all 4 of them hold out. How do you distribute the money?
We're in a real crappy situation.
You got to get Garrett. You got to get Garrett. You got to get Sauce. I think, for me at least, I think those are the one and two that need to be re-signed here. Hopefully, to be honest with you, when it comes to defense, it really depends on what they're going to do with the staff as well. Like, how are they going to, do we win and keep these guys? And that is the infrastructure that we stay with. Because if it is, then I think that they're more comfortable losing Jermaine Johnson, to be honest with you, because I feel as though that they feel like they're like that on the defensive side of the ball, specifically with their D-line rotations. I feel like to them, that would be easier for them to replace.
And it depends on the step that Will McDonald takes too.
Exactly. Yep. That's another thing too. I heard you guys talking about Hassan. Who's to say that they don't? Who's to say that they even want to commit to him long term? And I love Hassan Reddick. I think that they should re-sign him. But who's to say that that wasn't just an all in year move? Whereas they know he's going to be on this field this year, but it's just another year for Will McDonald to keep continuously progressing. I think this will be Will McDonald's Bryce Huff year. The way you've seen Bryce Huff kind of take that step last year and get 10 sacks, put him in that role, have him behind Hassan Reddick, and then maybe let Hassan Reddick walk because you feel like you have that heir apparent in Will McDonald. But it really just depends on what the staff is like. Garrett Wilson, to me, even if we do keep the staff, he needs to be on the team. It would be too massive of a blow to the team if he's not on the team.
Yeah. Now, go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I don't think you can say for certain who stays, who goes right off the bat now, because you don't know how people react if it's a good season. You know how people react if it's a bad season. You don't know what the numbers are going to look like. Just have to stay healthy. There's too many variables right now to where you can make a absolute concrete statement of who you keep and who you don't. I think when I look at it personally, Brees is probably the one you have to make a decision about first, because he doesn't have the 5th-year option. He doesn't have that extra security blanket that Sauce has, that Garrett has, that Jermaine has. And I also think he's not going to be as expensive to retain because by the virtue of the position he plays, he's a running back. And I think Brees can have a phenomenal year. It just comes down to what that number looks like for a guy that isn't just a runner, but it also is a very viable and very productive pass catcher. And I think the Jets go from there because I think Sauce is going to be the guy that resets the cornerback market. I think Garrett, depending on the type of season he has this year, could end up getting top 10, top 7 type receiver money. And then Jermaine is the question because if he has the third-year leap, now you're looking at possibly one of the best edge rushers in football. And now you're dealing with premium position of wide receiver, corner, and edge rusher, which is a fantastic problem to have until you have to pay everybody. But
definitely some high-quality problems.
I personally would prioritize, if all things were equal, Garrett and Sauce, because you have your stalwart cornerback, extremely hard to find, shutdown corner, number one wide receivers. Receivers, it seems like awesome ones are coming out every year. Garrett Wilsons don't grow on trees, right? That type of wide receiver is very, very hard to find. Brees, I would do my best to retain him. I think that's the one I would do first by virtue of you get that one out of the way early. You don't let that number skyrocket after yet another good season, I would assume, in 2025. And then you focus on the first round guys. With Jermaine, I'm waiting and seeing because maybe you can get a bargain on him if he doesn't take this leap that a lot of people expect him to. And if he does, then you have to basically weigh, okay, who are we comfortable with leaving? What other roster gymnastics can we do to keep all of our young guys? Maybe there's a veteran that is released that nobody expects. Maybe instead of keeping both or one of Carter and Reed, they let both walk so they have the money to retain Jermaine. It's a lot of Jenga pieces that have to be moved around with these upcoming extensions. But once again, it's upcoming. The focus should be on this season. And the reason isn't just because of the expectations and what I think could be a really good year, but it's also the fact that this season is going to dictate a lot with those upcoming extensions.
I don't envy Joe Douglas. I'll tell you that, boys.
Well,
he's got a hard work ahead of him.
Yes, and this is the main reason why I think, God forbid, some things don't go well this season. Saleh is out, but not Joe Douglas. Like Woody Johnson sees
possible,
right?
Yeah.
Like probably Joe Douglas has some sort of contingency plan or some type of thought process how to maybe sign all four of them, because you can have someone on a 5-year deal, 7-year deal, 8-year deal, even something long like that. You can keep these 4 players as much as like Brees. If Braylon Allen, a 20-year-old, again, I'm not thinking that we're going to give him so much to handle, but if he comes into his own in his rookie year, Brees becomes very expendable in 2025, 2026.
I don't necessarily agree with that, man. I think Brees Hall is one of the game breakers of the NFL, man. What does Braylon Allen look like coming into his own? It's still not going to be near, I think, what Brees Hall is. Like, I think that, we were talking about Brees Hall being a possible offensive player of the year, right? Like, the dude is going to be the engine of our offense next year. You know, like, I personally believe he'll have, like, 2,000 scrimmage yards next year. Like, he's going to be great asset. The thing is, like what Brandon said, like the market of running backs, they're obviously very, very devalued right now. And what does that look like? Especially given the fact that you see CMC out here running the table with these deals. Because I honestly believe if Brees Hall has the year I feel like he can have, he's going to be breathing that kind of air and demanding that kind of money. So it's like, what happens? And with Joe Douglas, like I actually kind of I've been so up and down with my thought process on Joe Douglas, but this past off season really had me buy back into him because of just like, we signed a lot of quality players, got some quality guys, but where we got them at, like with the price tag and some of the contract structures, I'm kind of confident in him in regards to being able to finesse the cap and get these deals done. Like, I really am. Like, no one thought that we was going to sign Tyron Smith for that bag, like for that. Like everybody I know that I talked to was actually saying, "Oh, Tyron will never come here because Joe Douglas is not going to give him enough money." Everybody, and he gave him a $6.5 million deal, if I'm not mistaken, with like 13 and a half incentives. That's an amazing deal. Mike Williams, that's a great deal. Like, he has done what we have all asked him to do this offseason.
Right.
Like, literally. You got three new starters on the offensive line, a number 2 guy behind Garrett Wilson, got another left tackle like in the draft. He's done literally everything that we've had to do, and not only that, he's done it without selling his soul like an Eric McAkman. You know what I mean?
Right.
He did it without putting our team out there to be on the hub in the next couple years in regards to the cap. If you look at the cap situation, I believe we're going to be playing with a lot of money in the next couple years, given the fact of how he structured a lot of things. So I think he'll get it done, and I'm pretty confident of how he's going to get it done.
Yeah, back to the kind of question real quick, just about the Sauce and Jermaine. One thing I just wanted to mention with regards to Jermaine is one thing that the Jets don't get a lot of credit for is player development, and we can develop on defense.
Yep.
So keep that in mind when you're thinking about who we would look to keep. I think that makes someone like, out of that group of players, it makes someone like JJ just a little more devalued, just slightly. You know what I mean? Either him or Will, whoever is the worst out of those two, makes them a little bit less valuable, just because we, look what we did with Bryce Huff. Like, we took Bryce Huff out of undraftedness, and we're able to bring him up into the level of a $75 million player. I think we can do that again with other players. So I'm not super super worried as far as with our defensive talent. I think you lock down those other guys first, and then kind of make the decision on a defensive perspective.
We'll be Tyleek with the Irish goodbye.
Yeah.
Said deuces.
Yeah. I think he probably had a technical difficulty.
Now, just piggybacking off of Mike Williams, I've always been a fan of his and whatnot, but again, we don't know if he's going to be ready for week 1, right? And that is concerning to me. That is. Again, I'm hoping that he's ready to roll and whatnot. But with this being said here, just keep in mind, since Joe Douglas has been here, he's always trying to go for that home run threat. And he's failed, right? He wanted Tyreek Hill. The Dolphins came up. Debo, same thing. AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, right? Same thing. Now, we're going to circle the wagon back. And what if, again, we're playing the what ifs, right? But what if Mike Williams isn't ready and Debo is available? Why not? Why not call San Francisco? Because now San Francisco has a dilemma as well, right? They're trying to pay Ayuk and Debo. I think they squeezed that as much as they could with Samuels. But if he's available, what better player to have Malachi Corley learn from than Debo Samuel in an all-in year? Do you guys see that possibility where we go into week 1 with Debo Samuels on the opposite side of Garrett Wilson?
I don't know. I don't know if that happens. That's a little no. See, like I don't want to completely rule it out just because of the connection with Salah. Although offense, defense, but I don't know. Brandon's shaking his head. Brandon, what are you thinking?
Go for it, Brandon.
Once again, it's very similar to me to the Devontae Adams situation, where in a vacuum, Debo would be a great addition. I just think cap-wise, it's another question, because how are you reworking that contract, especially when you're dealing with the Reddick situation, and we talked about, you have all these guys coming down the line that you would basically have to restructure Debo's contract to a significant degree, probably add on some dead cap years just to make things work for the next year or probably 2. The other thing about Debo is we talked about Mike Williams being injured, right? And Mike Williams not being able to stay on the field. Well, you'd be adding another receiver that's like that.
Right.
As awesome as Debo is, as great of a player as he is, there's a lot of tread on those tires, whether it is as a receiver or a running back in some cases, a guy that has the ball in his hands frequently. He's also been a guy that hasn't been able to stay on the field as consistently as you would like. Now, he's usually battling through those things, and he's fighting through those injuries and on the field most weeks. But this isn't a guy that's been able to stay fully healthy for full seasons. Right. If I were to trade for a 49ers receiver, it would be Brandon Ayuk. I feel like having him next to Garrett Wilson would be very, very fun. You have two extremely talented route runners, but then it's the same thing. What does the contract situation look like? Oh, now you have to pay Ayuk and Garrett Wilson. And it's a very tough situation to do before the start of the year. And that's where it's where I come back to. It's what I said earlier. Receiver is the position I'm coming to trade deadlines. The position I'm looking at mid-year, because not only will you see what teams are struggling and are willing to give up their guys, but you'll also have a good sample size of what does Mike Williams look like? What is his health level at? What does Corley look like? What does Gibson look like? Take it even further. How's Conklin doing in the passing game? What does Breece Hall look like? Are they using him as a receiver in some aspects? What does Braylon Allen's contributions look like? It all comes together to basically say, are we going after a guy like Debo, or are we going to stick with our guys? And I just think right now, because of the unknowns you have, it's just not a feasible move they can make. And that's not even adding the draft capital at part of it into the equation.
And not only that too, but with the contract situation, once again, you look at the deals that these players are getting. Now, I don't think that Garrett is going to get the Justin Jefferson deal, but I don't think it's going to be far off. And then you already know that Sauce is going to become the highest paid corner in the NFL.
I think if Garrett plays to his full potential, looking at Aaron Rodgers, if he's healthy, he's going to eclipse that contract. He is going to be the ultimate holdout until he gets that contract. Because again,
I'm holding out too.
100%. 100%. If he gets 1,500 yards, like I could see a situation where, again, positive Jet fan, right? We win the Super Bowl, Garrett Wilson, 1,500 yards, 15 touchdowns. The guy's he earned it. He earned the bag. With again, two years in a row, 1,000 yards with trash at the quarterback position. Think about it.
Yeah.
Who he had. Yeah. And then you have an elite quarterback throwing on the rock, and he just breaks it out of the shell. To me, he's going to get that. Whatever he wants, he's going to get.
But good, though. Let Woody open up that wallet. Yeah. I have no problem with that. If you earn the contract, get paid. That's the way I look at it. Like, we've been starved for a number one wide receiver for years. I remember going in, 2019, 2020? We were going out there with Chris Hogan and Vincent Smith.
Greg Salas.
Yeah.
David Nelson.
It's the same thing with the pass rusher. I mean, like growing up, I had John Abraham, and then we had Muhammad Wilkerson for a couple of years before, his career completely went off the deep end. So it's like that, and that it's like now we have like a plethora. It's the same thing with this number one wide receiver. It's not exactly the same thing, but we haven't had a legit number one wide receiver since Brandon Marshall. Now, who was our number one receiver for these last couple of years? Jamison Crowder? Like, seriously? It's like, look at some of the guys that we have had to endure. Woody Johnson has not had to open up that wallet. I give him all the credit in the world. I give him a lot of credit with the whole Aaron Rodgers thing. He pulled that off. That's the guy he wanted. He went out. He was firm, and he got his deal. He got it done. I'm cool with that. We finally got the quarterback. Now, it's great because we have these homegrown talents. I'm not expecting them to all take a hometown discount, nor should they. I get it. Right. But it's not like we're going out and like trading for like a Justin Jefferson, where it's like not a guy that we developed. Like Garrett Wilson, we developed. Sauce, we developed. Like, I want to pay these guys. Right. I want to pay these guys. I really do. I want some more like long-term, like all-time great Jets. Just homegrown, one team their whole career, where we could be like, yeah, Garrett Wilson's our guy, 10 years down the line. And then like a situation where our kids are talking about, oh yeah, back in the day with Sauce Gardner, this and that. Like he didn't go to New England and then he didn't go to Carolina, like all these weird teams, you know. I want these guys lifelong Jets.
My kids
Absolutely.
are talking about the broken jaw Geno Smith.
Yeah, see?
Back in my day.
Yeah. Back in my day, we were
Oh,
busting jaws for money.
Oh man.
Like there's no, I'm sorry, man. I know I'm going to sound biased, but there's no other fan base
No.
that deserves a Super Bowl more than the New York Jets, man.
Right.
Just thinking about that. Thinking about all of this
It just, like,
nonsense.
doesn't happen.
The
Yeah.
Idzik 12. Like, what
Yeah.
if Joe Douglas would have had that opportunity to draft 12 players? It
Yeah.
would have been a completely different organization. We would be talking about maybe like consistent winning club for the past maybe 10 years or whatnot. Like, I'm in these spaces and I get it. A lot of Jet fans, they're talking down on Josh Allen. Like, I get it. I hear you. You know, there's a rivalry going on, this and that. But damn, man, you know, the Buffalo Bills every year since they had Josh Allen after the first year,
Irrelevant.
they've been in contention.
Yeah,
man.
contention. Yeah.
That's what I want. I get it that they haven't gotten a Super Bowl or whatever, but I want that as a
Yeah.
Jet fan.
It's a lot better than what we had.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
would take the Bills. I mean, outside of the no winning Super Bowls, but yeah, I would
Yeah.
take the, like, I'd be like a proud Bills fan, like a Jets fan if they had the Bills record. Yeah, hell yeah.
Of course.
100%, man. I mean, that's what we're looking for this year, and it's all in. Look at all the things that we've spoken about. Next year, we don't know what's going to happen. That's where the pressure is so on Rodgers. That's why I'm like, wherever he is right now, go for it. Enjoy yourself. Clear your mind. When you come back in late July, you know he's going to be laser focused.
Yeah. Because he has been. He has been. He's done nothing to me, or, you know, from my perspective, done nothing to think that he won't be completely locked in 110%. You know, when we were first kind of courting him and going through all those motions or whatever, I was very skeptical, very, very skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
You know, older guy, this and that. He seems like he kind of just is me guy. But then he came here. He's saying all the right things. He's hanging out in New York. He's taking the players out. He's taking it in. He seems like a renewed guy. Like he kind of like, you know, sometimes it's like some change can do you good. Like the change did him well. He looks more happy. He looks better. He's locked in. And you know, also when he came back and was like, yeah, I want to play here more than just one more year. You know, listen, I can't say anything bad about the guy now. You know what I mean? It's just like he is completely the guy that we want and need him to be as far as from what he's saying and what he's showing. So, you know, let him do what he's got to do. He's going to come back and he's going to tear it up. You know, as long as he's healthy, I think he's going to tear it up. What
do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Rodgers, right, it's I feel like and Monty talked about this earlier in the show, right? He's a guy that seems like he thrives off spite and people doubting him. He's a guy that
great point. Yep.
The Packers drafted my replacement. Well, I'm gonna go basically prove them that they're wrong. Oh, everyone thinks I'm washed up. Well, I'm gonna go prove them wrong. And time again, we've seen that. He's in a position now where he has the team around him to prove everyone wrong. It's not just him now. He has a defense that it seems like for the first time in years, they're going to be playing with a lead. And I'm really excited to see what this Jets defense looks like with a lead in some games instead of immediately being down. He has three really good wide receivers if everything pans out. He has an upper echelon running back. He has a good tight end. He has an offensive line that should keep him upright. What it comes down to, though, is that everyone needs to stay on the field. And that has been the Jets' bugaboo for years. The injuries. If they stay relatively healthy, I think the Jets win the division. I think they have the best roster on paper, and that is the biggest part of this, on paper in the division. I think that they have the best offensive line on paper. You've run through a bunch of different positions on paper. They're in a great spot. The problem is this team has not capitalized on that yet. They had a great team on paper last year too. Not as good as this year, but they had a great one on paper last year too.
Mm-hmm.
One bad thing happens, all of a sudden, the next bad thing happens. The next bad thing. All of a sudden, you look up, and the Jets are signing guys off the waiver wire to start for them at positions they've never played on the offensive line.
Yeah.
So we can, and obviously you can't project injuries in June for September, but we could have all the expectations in the world. And I just want people to realize that we could get to week 3 and there could be 2 injuries and the entire scope of the season is different.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of, look, this is the bed the Jets made for themselves. They are banking on a lot of things going right. They are banking on, and as good as Aaron Rodgers is, and as much as I think he's going to be on the field, the facts are the facts. He is a 40-plus-year-old quarterback coming off a torn Achilles.
And what a lot of people don't talk about, and that's not to be like saying that Aaron Rodgers is on the decline or anything, but it's like the last time that we really saw him on a football field, he was playing with a broken thumb and it was considered a down year. So we haven't seen peak Aaron Rodgers in 3 years. That's all. Are you guys concerned at all about that?
No, I'm not, because, and he's spoken to it himself. I forgot what interview it was, but essentially, he was saying, and his stats kind of back this up, right? So in earlier years, he was good for about 300 a year on the ground rushing. He was kind of running around a little bit more. He was making stuff happen, with more of his physicality. He beats you with his mind now. He's got a football IQ. I remember him saying he's got Einstein level football IQ at this point, from just having been in the league for so long, the longevity he's had, the receivers he's played with, the talent he's played against, the talent he's beaten, right? Over and over and over. The amount of times he's been in the playoffs, any situation you could think of, he's been in it. He's seen it happen. So from a mental perspective, he's got it, right? And then he's still got a cannon arm. Like, you see it now in practice. He's slinging it 40 yards like it's nothing. No look passes going across the other side of the field. Like, it's nothing to him. So he's still got the 2 main weapons that make him a dangerous man on the football field, and that is his arm talent and his football IQ and vision. So as long as that is what it is, I'm not worried at all that we haven't seen him. If anything, right, he's gotten a break. He took a break last year. He didn't really have to. He didn't really have to get banged up as much. He had the Achilles injury, but other than that, I mean, he seems fine. He seems to be running around no problem, other than a blister here, today. I did. My only concern with him is, on my podcast, Laugh Through the Turbulence, we interviewed a NFL physiologist who actually works with players. He does a lot of different things as far as helping them recover from injuries and stuff like that. He's also has his own physical therapy practice and stuff like that. And one thing he brought up that was I thought pertinent to what we're talking about here is, he said that when you have an injury on one side, right, like that, the often thing that happens is you overcompensate, and then you kind of put all that energy and that focus and on the left, on the other side, to kind of compensate. So he said that if he had any concern for Rodgers this year, it would be the other leg. So that would be the only thing he would say. So, but as long as he's running around, he's doing what he needs to do with the physical therapy, and he doesn't look like he's kind of like babying it or gingerly walking or anything like that, as long as that's fine, then I think he has all the possibility in the world to be, a top 12 QB and take us wherever we need to go. And it'll be up to other things. It'll be up to other things, I think, that hold us back, not Rodgers.
Oh, sorry, Dana, go ahead.
No, not being a doctor here or anything, but I think the overcompensation occurs during rehab, right? And when you come out of rehab, I think he's so far ahead, more than any other player that has had this Achilles tendon injury. Like, I always think back way before Vinny, when Marino had it. Right, Marino had it. I think it was the third or fourth game of the regular season against the then original Cleveland Browns, and it just severed, popped, and he wasn't walking until, was it probably 6 months after? But Rodgers is such an animal. Mm-hmm. And again, that's why so many people are like, oh, he's into this holistic thing. It works. It works for him, and it works. He's probably 5 months ahead of process. If you think about it, if the Jets were in playoff contention,
he would have played.
I firmly believe it. He would have played that Washington game. He would have played it. He would have showed the entire world that, you know what? I expedited this. I did a whole bunch of different treatments, and it worked. And I think a lot of NFL players would have hated him a lot, because normally that's your free ticket for any player. Whenever you rupture your Achilles, that's it. Season's over. Done deal. But again, looking at it from an NFL employer standpoint, if their prized possession goes down week 1, now they have the precedence of, you know what? Aaron Rodgers did it, and he's 40-something years old, and he came back at week, 11, 12. So we expect you to do the same. Thank goodness for them, it didn't happen, but he was ready to go. He was ready. I think the overcompensation, I think it's a done deal now. I think both sides, he's raring to go.
He looks good.
If the only thing is like that little blister, like, dude, take it. I mean, like I had new like work boots. I had a blister. Nobody cared. So completely different. But if that's what it is painful. Can't lie. You got to like the Band-Aid on it, so it's a thing.
Dude, I wore some new loafers the other day. Blistered up the back of my eye. I was walking funny for a couple of days. It sucked.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just a little loafer blister. He had a big blister on the back, but they go away. You put some Neosporin on it, you bandage it up, good to go.
Windex.
I think the biggest thing
throw
for
some
me,
mud in there.
Yeah, throw some dirt on it.
What do we call it? The biggest thing for me is, and I don't think it'll be an issue because I think he's very, very mentally good in this capacity. But is he hesitant that first game against San Francisco on that leg? Is he hesitant in some things that normally would just come natural to him that first game or those first 2 games? And this is something I think I've discussed a little bit prior to this. I think the Jets offense is going to click into gear that home opener week 3. I think you're going to see some bumps in the road week 1. I think you'll see a little bit less bumps in week 2. And then by week 3, I think they're hitting the ground running. Because, look, at the end of the day, Rodgers did miss a full season. Yes, he got the rest. He didn't take the wear and tear, but he did miss a full season of NFL football. Even losing a little bit of time at that type of level of competition, it takes a little bit to get back into it. So, now, I'm not saying I think, like, the Jets are going to put up, like, 6 points or 10 points, but I think you might not see the clicking of everything on offense right away. I think you might see a protection that will be picked up later in the year that isn't picked up early on. I think you might see an incomplete pass or 2 that Rodgers going to nail in week 7, in week 8, that he's just off on in week 1. It's to the point of, hey, everything isn't going to happen immediately, but you're going to see more than enough in those quote unquote bad weeks that you're going to have confidence that things are going to basically move forward and be good. But I just think that it's very realistic that you're not seeing peak performance Aaron Rodgers right off the bat, because as much as he's done to prove that he isn't human, he's still human in some capacities, and he's got to get his legs underneath him a little bit.
Well, I think that's why you have Brees, especially. I think he's going to have a huge workload, especially early on. And I mean, we could say what we want about Izzy. We don't know if Izzy's definitely making the team. I'm hearing a lot of reports that he's on the bubble. But we have Allen. So like we have these guys that I think it's going to be a very run-heavy team, especially at the early beginning of the season, until Aaron feels comfortable playing in actual games with that ankle and just with the leg and just everything, just getting him back into form. Do you guys see him playing any preseason this season? Even for a drive or two?
Well, maybe a drive or
Maybe,
two.
yeah.
Nothing
He
more
did it
than
last
that.
year. He did the
He did
drive
it last
year.
year. Yeah, I was at the game where he scored that touchdown with Garrett Wilson, the preseason game against the Giants, and he looked great, by the way. And that it was a little bit shaky at for the first couple of like downs of that series, but then they clicked at the end, and then boom, touchdown before you knew it. So
And he had to fight with that Giants player. I can't even think of his name.
Oh, I know, that was so funny. Yeah, I was on Hard
That's
Knocks.
great.
That was great.
I don't even know who you are.
It's like, who are you, bro?
Yeah. I gave him the most uncomebackable line or something. I was like, what? It's just
I was like, right, relax a little bit, Raj. But it was true. It was true. I mean, who was that guy to be mouthing off to Rodgers at a preseason game? Like, who cares, bro? Like, relax.
Now he's probably a renowned type of, Walmart security guard.
Exactly.
I'm gonna throw something out there and let me know your thoughts on this, because I see a lot of parallels between Tom Brady's last season with the Pats, where, not for nothing, when he threw that last pass, it was an interception for a touchdown against the Titans. He was washed up. That's it. There's no more. There's nothing left in the tank. Following year, he just got revved up. He found that passion again, and he won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. Do you guys kind of see that with Aaron Rodgers that last season with Green Bay, where, I mean, the whole organization just gave up on him? They're like, all right, you know what? Your 10 years done here. Next year, we're going to go with the whole Jordan Love train. So sorry, that's it. It's a done deal. But do you see that, all right, you know what? If Aaron Rodgers is healthy, he could pull that same trick or not?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that first. So I mean, look, I was saying it before, a little change could do you good. I think for sure, coming to a big market like this, coming to a big, I mean, T was right. Aaron Rodgers is kind of a vain dude. He's got all eyes on him out here.
Mm-hmm.
He's got all the attention, all the energy. He's a big shot in a big pool right now. He's a big fish in a big pond right now. And I think it's kind of re-energized him quite a bit. So yeah, I am very much on the train of him being him getting that energy. I mean, look at Brady. Like, Brady went down to Florida. Like, Tampa's a beautiful place. He gets the team was also a lot more willing to kind of the similar situation. They were kind of a lot more willing to follow his lead. To give him the things he needed, to give him the weapons he needed, to follow what he was instructing the organization to do, to put together a championship team. And, he was very much in on it, and he brought them home the gold, or, brought them home the Lombardi. So, like, for me, I could very much see a similar situation happening here. The organization is clearly all in behind Aaron Rodgers. To some Jets fans, that might be not for the best, but this organization is clearly Team Rodgers. We will do whatever we need to do to appease him. I think that's what it is right now, and I think that Rodgers is in a position to kind of really, really strongly lead us to heights that we haven't seen in a very long time.
Well,
Brandon, what do you think?
You could also argue that he's more motivated than Brady was in Tampa.
Yeah, more to prove.
More to prove, yeah. Like, you want to prove that, like, the Colin Coward's wrong, and like all those kind of guys, like, just like the national media, just like, shut up. I've been listening to you guys for a year and a half now. I can't go away for 2 days during mandatory minicamp without it exploding into a huge story. It's like, you got to understand it from his perspective. Like, he he's saying all the right things by not saying anything about it. Like, he's just gonna wait for week 1, week 2, week 3. He's just gonna wait for this season in general and just be like, all right, now what? Simple as that.
I think what it comes down to is it might be similar to what it was in Green Bay, but different in the sense of, like, Rodgers was playing to basically spite the organization. He knew that his time was up. He wanted to basically prove to them that, hey, I still got it. I'm still worth keeping. And even if I'm going to win here, I'm going to prove that I can still do this. And I think that frame could be shifted to something Liam said, in the sense of, oh, everyone's calling me out. Everyone wants me to fail. Everyone thinks I can't do it. Everyone thinks I can't come back from this injury, blah, 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 etc. However you want to frame it, I think he could use that outside noise as motivation. But I think that becomes a slippery slope, right? Because you start relying on outside people to give you motivation. Now you start caring too much about what other people are thinking. I think the more important aspect is Rodgers knows what this season means to everyone in the organization, in the sense of everybody is on the hot seat. Last year was a mulligan. Whether you want to agree with it, whether you don't want to agree with it, it doesn't matter. This is where the Jets are right now. Joe Douglas is on the hot seat. Robert Saleh is on the hot seat.
That's
if
right.
they do not win this year, they are not coming back. And
Even Joe Douglas?
I think Douglas is the bigger conversation, but also got to remember, Douglas needs an extension. He's in the last year of his deal. Saleh is approaching the end of his deal.
Done.
Douglas has at this point, you're in year 6 for Joe Douglas. As good of a team as you can build, the NFL is a what have you done for me lately league. And I think that as much of an argument as you can make, having the same GM for 6 years and not doing much winning, a lot of owners would be hard pressed to keep that. So I think in a hot seat season, most likely for both Douglas and Saleh, Rodgers knows, hey, I got to play at a high level. Hey, I got to make sure we go as far as we possibly can. We got to win the division, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's what's going to drive him. Not necessarily the outside stuff, because I think it'll play a role. I think it's more of the internal Rodgers playing with his head on fire, knowing that it doesn't all come down to him, but a lot of it comes down to him.
You see, you bring up a good point. It's just that I'm going to throw a little grenade in here because Joe Douglas, he's doing everything that you would want a GM to do. And I just feel with Saleh, if we do win the whole thing, we're going to win in spite of him. He's a great rah-rah guy. He's a great running up and down the stairs and the stands and whatnot before games. He's a great pom-pom type of dude. But there's no strategy. There's nothing. Like, you could have the entire team go out there without him even leaving the locker room, and you would have the same exact result. I just feel like if this doesn't work out, I think Joe Douglas will have his final pick of a head coach to say, all right, you know what? I'm supplying the players. I'm getting the contracts done. The rookies that I get in the draft, I move heaven and earth to get the guys that we need to, but we haven't had that head coach to push these guys to the next level. I just feel like if we do win the whole thing, it's going to be kind of similar to like Brian Billick, right? What did he do with the Baltimore Ravens? It was the defense. Now we look at when the Broncos won the Super Bowl with John Fox. What was he? That's it. They won in spite of that head coach. That's why I just feel like it's such an all-in year, and it's not just for the players, it's for the head coach more than anything. I think Joe Douglas will be safe in that aspect. Now, with this being said, I'm going to bring up someone very important here. He brings up a lot of solid points and solid views. Panos, welcome up, man.
What's up,
guys? How are you?
What's going on?
Not much, chilling. I just saw you guys went live, so I had to hop in. Got off some Call of Duty. I was like, I gotta come talk to the boys.
So, what are your thoughts, man? What are your thoughts? This whole entire Rodgers thing, and I mean, it's very overblown, but how do you feel?
I think it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just typical New York media in general, just attacking Rodgers. It's all for probably political views and a bunch of nonsense, in my opinion. Who cares? He misses 2 days. I don't know if you guys saw what Sauce Gardner tweeted out before, but he said it perfectly, right? Like, the guy's been in the league for 15 plus years. He's been here phase 1, 2, 3, whatever he tweeted about. He was even here the entire time after he tore his ACL, right? Like, I mean, not his ACL, his Achilles, excuse me.
Achilles, yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just the hate on the Rodgers. I'm kind of just sick of it. I'm ready to get this season going already so we can just prove all the doubters wrong. It's infuriating having to listen to everybody every day. I don't think any other team gets the same treatment in the New York media besides the Jets. It's always us, but rightfully so. We haven't won shit. Until we start winning something and doing something, we're gonna be made fun of basically until things change, right? So I don't know what you guys think. I mean, I'm sure you guys are saying the same couple of things, but I just feel that's how things are going. And the Hassan Reddick thing, that's a little interesting. What have you guys been thinking about with that as well? I'm just kind of curious. Like, I'm assuming we're going to sign this guy to a long-term deal or something, at least 2 years. I'm hoping. I don't know. It's a little strange if they had an agreement for having to be traded, and then he kind of changes his mind, which I kind of understand. He wants to get paid and he deserves to get paid, but I don't know. A little frustrated with that, I think, a little bit.
See, I don't want a long-term deal. I really don't.
Like a 2-year deal. I want just the same amount of time as him with Rodgers here, basically.
Well, how much are you willing to give up?
That's my point.
What are you willing to give him?
I mean, I kind of whatever it takes to get done at this point. We made the trade. He's an outstanding player. We're trying to win a Super Bowl, right? So who really cares about what happens in 2 years from now from a cap space perspective? I think we do have like $55 million in cap space next year anyway. So
now, keep in mind though, that draft class with Garrett, Sauce, Brees, Jermaine, they all got to get paid.
We can pay everybody. The cap's not real. I like, come on, right? It's like
we've been saying
it. We were just talking about this.
It's not real. They always will figure out something. I guess the biggest question mark would be like DJ Reed or Michael Carter. It looks like that guy we drafted is doing pretty well. What's his name? Stiggers? Is that?
Yeah, Quantez Stiggers.
Right. It looks like he maybe could replace him. I don't think I'm going to pay DJ Reed. I don't think I'd rather play Michael Carter. He's younger. He's very good as well. I love DJ Reed, but if I had to lose somebody, I would be okay losing him because he's going to get a big payday. We're going to have to pay Sauce Gardner. Obviously, he's going to be the highest paid corner in the league. So I think we can get away with losing somebody on the back end. As long as we keep those boys up front paid, right? That's the most important.
So what would you give Hassan Reddick?
I really don't have a clue. I would just up I would increase the guaranteed money, just create some sort of incentive contract to get him happy for at least 2 more years. But I don't know. Does this guy want to get a 5-year deal and get paid? He's 30, right? This is his last contract. So
I would personally make it heavily incentive based.
Right.
That'd be the route I'd go.
Yeah, I don't know if he'll go for that because he has nothing guaranteed right now. Honestly, it's interesting because he's third in sacks in the NFL over the past 2 seasons. And, the guy has proven that he can jump from team to team, learn the system, be effective. And he also is the 19th, highest paid at the edge rusher position. So he is actually a little underpaid for the level of production that he's been putting up over the past few years. But the problem is you don't pay for what someone did in the NFL. You pay for what you think they're gonna do. And do we think that he's going to keep this up for the next however long of an extension that we give him? Now, could we set it up to where we give him the extension, but we know we're definitely going to trade him? Maybe we do something like that. I don't know, but that's kind of the only way I see us kind of extending him. We extend him, but really it's we extending you just to kind of keep you around and keep you happy, and then we're going to get rid of you first chance we get.
Now, before we move forward, I just want to give a big thank you to Brandon. I know Brandon has to exit out of here. Thank you so much. And where can everybody find you, my man?
Yeah, so writing for Jets X Factor. You can find all my writing there. Also writing for the League Winners, a different website that's covering fantasy and the NFL and college football. Make sure to check out my work there. You can find everything on my Twitter at BPOC24. Have it down below there. Also, if you want to check out my Instagram, post a lot of my stuff on my story as well. Thank you guys so much for having me. Really had a blast. Can't wait to do it again.
Nice. I'm going to check you out for sure, man.
Thank you so much, Brandon.
Great job.
Brandon,
awesome.
You rock,
Thank
man.
you guys.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too, man.
All right, yeah, I'm going to hop off soon, too. I got to get up in like 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
I look over, it's like, so I'm like, Jesus. Like, how is it 11 o'clock already?
Dude, I could talk Jets forever. It's crazy, man.
Then I'm going to take you on because I don't have to go to work for quite a while. So, still, like, just giving everybody an update. I am thankfully almost clear to go. I had a huge knee injury, so tomorrow they're going to give me the enormous green light to go back to work, which I cannot wait.
Nice.
It's a 2.5-month process, but this is great, man. Just feeling healthy and moving forward. So, with that being said, guys, man, I'm stoked for this whole entire thing. And again, these are non-issues with Aaron Rodgers and Reddick. I get it. Like, we all want maybe a long-term deal, but the guy's 30 years old. I see him as like a stopgap type of guy right now. Like, we need him just to get to the quarterback. And we have these rotational players and McDonald and Jermaine Johnson. And I know I'm forgetting other pass rushers right now, but again, pin your ears back.
Michael Clemens.
Oh my God. I'm expecting a lot from
him. And Deion Dawkins.
He's like, he should play in an orange jumpsuit. Like, that's how awesome. He's scary, dude. Love him. And of course, Elmo had to just give a nice little dig to Liam.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it did. It broke a little Muppet heart. I'm sure it did.
Thanks.
Well, you know what? I think the Panthers are going to go all the way. They're going to win the cup.
Yeah, for sure.
I think so.
Right.
I think for sure.
It is what it is. It was a fun season.
This was the year. You guys are never winning the cup, dude.
I feel bad for New York fans in general. We're never winning anything except for the Jets. The Jets are our only hope.
And the Yankees, come on. Yankees too.
Yeah. Yankees are killing it.
Yeah, Yankees are always kind of relevant. So
now, what this being
said,
I'm
going to get ready to hop off, fellas.
All right, Liam, we love you, man.
Me, all right. Dan, I'm going to text you after because we have our plans for tomorrow. If you still want.
Oh yeah, that's right. We're gonna go. Well, hopefully,
I'm still down.
I think so. I think I should be okay as long as I get the green light from my physician. Let's go. Freaking beer pong.
Yeah,
let's do it.
All right, thank you guys. So, anybody can fill in as guest host if you guys want right now. Go all night. I want to wake up and you guys are still on.
Freaking hey, let's do it. I'm in.
All right, fellas. Have a good night. All right.
Have a great one, Liam.
All right.
Excellent.
So I wanted to touch on the special teams. You know, a lot of people aren't even thinking about this, and it's just field position. I think that's enormous, fellas, especially with this rule change and whatnot. That's going to be very difficult to get accustomed to. I'm not a fan. I don't like that. Even the XFL. Think about this. I don't know if you guys ever catch any XFL games this year, but they reverted back to NFL rules on kickoffs. They don't have that rule that we just implemented. So it's just, I get it. Player safety. And then all of a sudden you have Thursday night games. That's not player safety. Like, you play on Sunday and then, hey, guess what? You got 3 days rest and you're game planning. Like, the mental stress that it places on NFL players on getting ready schematically, it's even more than the physicality of it. And now here we go. You got to play Thursday night. Safety first. Not really. Only when it's convenient. And this whole kickoff thing, I think it's going to last 1 year. And then they're going to scrap it. Because I don't see touchdowns happening. I don't. Because, again, you kick off. You punt, right? You punt. You don't kick. You punt.
Yeah, I think it's like it's closer, but like it's not as, it's not as brutal. You're not running from as long of a distance. So like I think it does cut down a little bit on the injury situation. I don't know. I'm kind of interested to see how it plays out, because I think that if it plays out the way that the league wants it to, you're gonna see teams subbing in actually good players and not just like career kick returners. You might see someone like, like a Breece Hall or someone like that receiving a kick, not because they're, someone who they just kind of throw on special teams, but because there's a lower percentage of them getting injured and a higher percentage of them breaking one long. So like, that's what I think. That's, I think, the reason that they wanted to make that move. But I don't know, man. I mean, people don't really respond well to big changes like that, especially in a sport like this, that, people have been watching it the same way for 100 years. Like, it's tough to make a big change like that, just out of nowhere.
I'm going to throw it on the screen here, so just to have an idea of what we're
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
be
yeah. Let's look at
looking
it.
at.
I looked one up, but I was like, I didn't really dig too much into it.
All right, you guys see it, right?
Yep.
All right, so here we go, and here we go. So all right, so he kicked it, but it seems like it's going to be more of a punt.
You
than
can't
anything
move
else.
right, and you can't move until the ball, the receiver catches the ball. That's the thing. So if you look, they have to wait till he grabs it. Boom, then they can move.
Sorry, I was just gonna say I played rugby in college, so it kind of reminds me of that. I don't know if you ever watched
Yeah.
But that's what it kind of reminds me of, because when you receive the ball in rugby like this, you can't tackle the player. It's a little different until he would advance past the guys at the 30. So it kind of stops you from getting killed. But rugby's different. Like, I mean, no
less
pads.
padding.
I mean, it's crazy, but that's kind of the thought process. It looks like reduce the injury aspect and like the full force of running down the field and hitting someone. It doesn't look terrible. I mean, it could be interesting. At least it gives it a little bit more of a chance to do something, right? Like, it looks like you could probably break something here. You might see some more scores, which would be a little entertaining, but
that's my question, right? Like, can you have, like, let's say a receiver or running back, like right here, you guys can see the cursor?
Yep.
Okay. Because just straight up like this, I don't know how you can break it. It's just a wall, helmet on helmet, but I see a lot of reverses. And at that point, when you see like kind of like everything is just bunched up together, you can break it free.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the thought process there, is that it makes for a more dynamic kind of start to the games and start to the halves. And, kind of after a touchdown gives the team a, good chance to kind of rebut a score. But, it's just, I don't know. I don't know how the fans are going to handle it, but I am interested to see how the teams handle it. I do think, like I said, I definitely think you're going to see some bigger name players thrown in there, especially like teams down a couple scores or something like that. They want to try to get that spark going. They might throw someone back there who's actually, someone that starts instead of just a special teams, a return specialist. And, it might be why we got Tariq Cohen, by the way.
Yeah, that is a possibility, because I asked Mike Westhoff, right, this question. We had him on about probably a month and a half ago. My question was, what if you line drive this straight here, and it bounces off of a player? Or is that illegal? Is that you the only way that this works is you have to kick it to the kick returner? What if the ball doesn't reach him and it reaches somewhere over here? So do you have to wait until he gets the ball dribbling up here and then run?
I think so, because if you look, the other team doesn't move until he grabs the ball and moves.
Right.
So I think that if you did that, it would kind of negate the squib or the line drive, because then he would just be running around and have more time to grab the ball, and they would just be sitting there.
The way that I think about this as a positive for the Jets is that we have a quarterback, so this will give us better field position most of the time, and we have a great kicker. So this could give us more opportunity to score, because even if it's, it could not that big of a deal, but like, looks like you're getting to at least the 30 almost every time. So you're getting at least 5 more yards every time here. So it could be a little bit more helpful on the offense, which is probably what the NFL wants to do, more offense, right?
Now, is the wedge illegal still? Remember, like they were saying that you can't create a wedge. But with this, you have no other option, right?
Yeah. What do you you kind of have to do it.
You have to. That is your prime example of a wedge right there.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of points here with, to me, special teams is enormous. We can't overlook that at all, Let me see what we have here.
Got to try to get an NFL ref on my show and your show.
We have to. Going to be some injured kickers this year.
That's funny.
That's awesome. But guys, what do you think, man? We get into training camp with no injuries, nothing, or
I pray.
I mean, I hope so, but it's the Jets, so it's like we just, for whatever reason, man, we just can't stay healthy. I don't know what it is. I was looking at a diagram. Part of it's our field, I think, because I was looking at a diagram of like all the injuries that have happened in MetLife Stadium, and it's just bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, like all over the field, all different players over time. It's just brutal. And I saw another, I looked at another kind of like a compilation. It went back. It was like a deep dive. It went back 10 years, and the Jets are like a top 5 over the past decade most injured team in the league.
Holy smokes.
I feel like our luck has to change. I don't know. I'm trying to think positive. Like,
you have to. Yeah.
In some weird way, I'm like, maybe this was like God's plan in a sense. Like Aaron Rodgers gets hurt like the darkest before dawn. Like he suffers this crazy injury. We have the most miserable year ever. We're all hyped up for it to be like the most amazing feeling ever to winning the Super Bowl or something crazy. Like God has some, like we've been through so much shit that this is like the only way we were ever going to Super Bowl. We had to go through something like this with Aaron Rodgers or something crazy like that.
Yeah. Hey, listen, from your lips to the football god's ears, man. I hope so.
I'm going to throw a question out there. Would you play Aaron Rodgers in the preseason?
No, I don't even think about it. No chance.
I would showcase him. I would throw him in for a drive or two because, there's about a debate on this. I've seen arguments for both sides. There's some people who there's stats to back it up either way you look at it. There's stats that show that, people that don't play in preseason, they hold them out, try to bubble wrap them. They actually aren't getting enough kind of exposure. They're not kind of getting that, that homeopathic remedy of getting it's like the people back in the day, they would take a little bit of poison, over the time, and then that would kind of make them a little bit immune to said poison. Or like, guys who are beekeepers, they get stung all the time. They don't get swelled up anymore because their body is so immune to the bee venom. Same thing like that. If you're not beating your body up even just a little bit, you're not going to be ready for those big hits when they come, first thing in the season. So, it's one thing to play in practice. It's another thing to play in a game. Preseason game is like kind of an in-between. So I think it's a good progression. I think you should see a little bit of time. I don't think they should be playing any extended amount of time. I don't think you should be playing like multiple games or anything like that. But I think you showcase him, you get him ready, you make him practice like he is going to play for a full game. But then you just showcase him, and that's it. That would be my.
No, man, I'm not putting Aaron Rodgers on the field at all.
Why not?
Because he's Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to play, 1, and 2. I think those practices where we're playing like the Commanders or whoever it is, those like live practices will be good enough, honestly. And I don't disagree with you. If you wanted to play him a series or 2, sure. I'm not going to be like freak out about it. I would just prefer him not to. But at the same time, you almost contradict yourself saying that because he got hurt the first 4 plays playing in the regular season, wasn't like in preseason, right? So I get both sides. Personally, I think it's Aaron Rodgers. He doesn't need to. But at the same time, if you do think about it, it might not be a bad idea because we're playing the 49ers. We're not playing like Denver first week or something. So maybe we do need to get some reps out there and just get a feel. And I would love to see like the O-line like playing, maybe not Tyron Smith, but at least Olu obviously at left tackle. But I'd like to see the O-line out there for some series for sure.
Both of you guys bring up great points, right? Because like I fight with this. I struggle with this. I'm like, I want to see him play in the preseason at least 2 series, not just 1, 2. Why? Because again, all the work that he placed into it with his Achilles, how is he going to be? I want to see how he gels with this offensive line. Like I want to see Tyron Smith at left tackle. Like if he's out there, that's who I want. I don't want to see him with Olu. Once Tyrod Smith comes in, Tyrod Taylor comes in, fine. Put the rookie in there. No issue. But then I'm like, I don't want to. It's the Jets. right? And Monty, you're talking about the poison, right? Shoot, the moment Aaron Rodgers signed there, he took both of Romeo's and Juliet's poison all in one drink. You know what I mean? So like, do I want him to play or not? I have to lean on yes. I put him out there.
Yeah.
Get the cobwebs out. And Panos, just like you said, the first game of the season, we're not playing against some scrub defense.
Yeah.
They're gonna want to just destroy A-Rod.
Yeah. They want to. He went down in 4th place. They're gonna want to take him down in 2.
Yep. Exactly.
It's the 49ers. It's no joke. You know what I mean? Like, what a savage way to start the season. Thanks, NFL.
I love it. No, I
love it too.
I love it, man.
Me too.
I love it.
No pressure for us. So if we win that game, the amount of shit talking I'm going to do is going to be insane.
Yeah.
Jets Twitter is going to be relentless.
If we're even close, if it's within a touchdown, I'm talking all the.
Yeah, and then I think they're going to run off like 5 in a row after that.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the schedule. The only team that I look at, I'm like, oh man, this was going to be a rough one. It's the first game of the season. That's it, fellas. All these other games that we're playing against, again, we're late in December. We're playing against the Rams, and that's it. Like Buffalo, we beat them with Zach Wilson at quarterback.
Yeah.
The Dolphins, I respect them, but we match up very well with them. There's no team in the AFC East that reminds me of the New England Patriots of old with Tom Brady.
No.
There's none. There's not like, oh man, that's going to be a tough one. We match up always, no matter what it is, with the Dolphins. We match up with them pound for pound. And now you have a healthy Rodgers in there, anything can happen. And I'm going to be one of those fans that I call me green goggle glasses. I look at the Jets sweeping Buffalo, the Pats, and splitting with Miami.
I think Josh Allen, we got his number here at home at least. We got 2 years running of us beating him at home. So at least we win that game. It's hard to play in Buffalo though. I mean, especially if we play them later in the year when it's a little bit cold. I know the Jets are a cold weather team too, but still, like Buffalo, the fans, like it's crazy atmosphere, and they play very well at home too. Me personally, I think the Rams will give us trouble. I think the Buffalo at home for them, I think, or us away at Buffalo, I think that's trouble. And I think us away at Miami is trouble. And I think the 49ers are trouble. Other than that, though, I'm not even slightly. I could see the Jets stomping all those other teams. Look what we did to the Texans with Zach Wilson.
But why not sweep Buffalo? I agree. I mean, I'm putting it as
it could happen. It could happen too.
I'm putting it as 1-1 with like a split with them. But
yeah, me too.
But like, what is Josh Allen without Stephon Diggs? And that defense is taking a huge step back. They lost a lot of players.
Right.
They don't have much cap space either. Right. Like, we freaking own Josh Allen. Our defense owns him, and we beat him with freaking Zach Wilson every year. So it's like there's no reason I don't think we can't beat them, right? But I agree, it's definitely a tougher game. But I wanted to talk to you guys quickly. Any interest in going to London? I booked that shit. I'm going to Paris for 3 days, then I'm going to London for 3 days with my wife. Booked it. Super pumped, and especially because they're playing the Vikings. So it's like I feel pretty good. We're gonna win at least while I'm there. So.
Of course.
Yeah.
And Rodgers he's used to Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's his bread and butter, man. The Bears, the Vikings, Detroit. He can't wait to just dice them up. And that's the beauty of Aaron Rodgers there. It's going to be business. We're not just going out there, to have some crumpets and tea and whatnot. We're going there to destroy Minnesota. Whoever they line up at quarterback, it doesn't matter. If it's J.J. McCarthy or Sam Darnold, it doesn't matter. Win that game. To me, that's a trap game. Not saying that they're going to lose or whatnot, but those are the type of games that scare me as a Jet fan.
Is stacked, though. If that offense is stacked, if they did have a good quarterback,
100%.
it could be a tough game. But give me JJ McCarthy. But I don't think I don't think they're going to. Well, who knows? What is it? The 4th game of the season. So maybe by that time they might be making the switch. But are you going to make the switch against the Jets defense? I don't know.
Probably not a good idea.
No, man. I think Darnold's going to play that game. I think Darnold's going to. If you think of any team, right? If you look at history, the Vikings are like the perfect team where they know how to have a veteran quarterback in there. Like if you think of Gus Frerotte, Randall Cunningham, Jeff George, who else? I know I'm missing one more guy. Oh yeah, Kirk Cousins, another guy.
Cousins, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I mean, you put Sam Darnold there, who has what's his name, McCown as his quarterback coach, and their head coach is solid too, man. You know that he knows how to place them in good positions. And you can't forget Justin Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson,
He's
man.
a fucking beast, man.
Dude, those tickets were no joke. Let me tell you. Paying for
Yeah.
I could only
I'm
imagine.
contemplating it. My co-hosts are going for sure. I mean, I was just in London like a year ago, but I definitely love it there. So I would like to have an excuse to go back, and what better reason than a Jets game? So it's definitely in the cards, but we'll see. We'll see.
It's
all the way up top is $500 a ticket. I got lower level, but all the way up top is $500. It's crazy.
It's at Wembley, right?
It's at Wembley. That's why.
Tottenham.
Where?
Oh, Tottenham. Yeah, the Tottenham Hotspur
man.
Stadium, which is crazy because that's not, that's like a pretty big stadium. Like that's
Huge.
not like.
I'm surprised it's not at the Trafford.
Yeah, I'm fired up for it. I cannot wait.
That's gonna be cool, man. At least you're gonna watch it at like a regular time. You know what I mean? Like
2:30 p.m.
yeah, like that's one downer for me. Like waking up at 8 o'clock and just getting the Jets game out of the way at 9 o'clock here. I could only imagine how it is out west, man. That's what, a 6 a.m. game.
Yeah,
it kills the whole momentum.
Football on the West Coast sucks. It's so much better being over here.
Completely. Yep. I mean, I remember going to San Francisco to meet a buddy of mine, and I'm not gonna lie, like the whole day was football. Like we went there. It was at 10 o'clock was the 1 o'clock game.
Right.
Dude. And it was the Jets against the Chargers here at home. That's the one. Was it? No. It was Carolina and the Jets. That's the one where Jake Delhomme threw a pass to Steve Smith. It ricocheted some guy's foot right into Revis's hands, and he ran it all the way to the touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was like the only Jet fan there, just going nuts.
Great. I love that. I love those moments. I love those
moments.
Great. Yeah, man.
But other than that, any final predictions for the New York Jets?
12-5 for me.
Love it.
Yeah, I'm a little more conservative. I think we're I just have seen so much heartache over the years and injury and this and that, and we haven't changed the field, which I think is the main issue. I also think our biggest weakness as a team now is probably coaching. We have Todd Downing's not really anyone that impresses me. Keith Carter, the O-line coach, doesn't impress me. Saleh is good at defense, but as far as leading a team, I don't know. Hackett's terrible. Can't stand Hackett. I think he sucks.
It's horrendous.
So, I don't know. This isn't a team where coaching is going to be getting us out of any situations. If the wrong people go down miss the wrong games, that could really, really hurt us in certain games. Not necessarily to the point of like out for the season or anything like that, but just like if we have the right or the wrong bunch of guys that aren't ready at the same time, that could really, really hurt us. We're not going to be able to rearrange the right guys into the right places, especially if one of those guys is Rodgers, our field general. Do I trust that Hackett is going to be able to tell Tyrod Taylor how to beat, the Rams or the Bills or any of the good teams, which, with our luck, that's probably how it plays out, especially versus Miami. Long answer to your short question is I think we're an 11-win team this season, and I think we get a wild card spot, but I think we win the wild card game and then advance into the playoffs, and then whatever happens from there happens. But I think
you can hear it in Monty's synopsis and voice here how distraught of a Jets fan he is, and I don't blame him. Team is stacked.
Yeah, I know.
It's stacked, guys. We need to be more positive. This team is so stacked.
But
There's
it's more
never
about
been
it's
better
more than
Jets-
it's
better
more
Jets
than
in our life.
it's more than about just being stacked. It's about being able to have longevity. You know, we have Mike Williams who hasn't played a full season in a while. We have Tyron Smith
That's
who has
not true. He's usually pretty healthy. It was just last year.
Nah, it's like the last I just looked it up before. It was like 3 years in a row he hasn't played a full season. Maybe
Really?
3 or 4 years. Yeah. It's been a while since he played a full season. And then Tyron Smith hasn't played a full season in like 10 years. You know,
that's okay.
well, thankfully we have Olu, which was,
Right.
you know, that's who I was beating the drum for, was us to get a left tackle, and thank God we went that route.
Me too.
You know, so that's you know, I feel a lot better about that. And then we're stacked at, you know, all the other positions pretty much. So I'm not too worried, you know, on these other positions, but you know, there are some things there. There are some questions there. It's just, I don't know. I'm like, I know we're stacked, but we also have some, you know, some shakiness in some of those roles. So it's like, I have to see it. I have to see it happen.
I agree.
There's too many years of us not having teams that last in health, and health is what matters. You know, I mentioned before about how the Jets are a top 5 most injured team in the league. Guess who isn't? The Chiefs. They're at the bottom of that list. They're always healthy, and they are always making the playoffs. Like when you look, if you look back in the, like, going back like 20 something years, they're like, they don't go 2 years without making the playoffs. Like, it's just not a thing that happens in Kansas City. So like, you know, I would love for us to start that kind of a trend here in New York, but it just hasn't been that trend for us. So it's kind of like Tyron Smith. Like every year Tyron Smith plays like 10 games or whatever, and then he goes down. That's kind of his average, or 12 games. It's kind of like what the Jets are. So I want to see that turn around for us. Hopefully that starts this year, but just going off of history, it's hard for me to be that optimistic that we just come in and sweep and come in as like a 2 or 3 seed or even a 1 seed.
We are.
Yeah, we have the talent. We have the talent for it. We have the talent for it, for sure. 100%. We have the talent for it.
The only person that I think we would be in trouble is Garrett Wilson. If he goes down, we're in trouble, in my opinion. I don't really think we have, without him, or I don't know. I'm nervous. Like you said, now you bring up the Mike Williams thing, like Alan Lazard. Like, come on, like we're in trouble if we lose Garrett Wilson on offense. I don't know. Like, that's one that would make me nervous if he went down outside of Rodgers. Like Tyron Smith, he looks like a stud. Like if you just watch him in those clips on Twitter.
Oh yeah, he looks like MC Hammer with his feet.
Yeah, looks unreal. And I think we did a great job by shoring up the line with Olu. That was a great pick. Thank God we didn't get Bowers or something crazy like that. I mean, everyone forgets about Conklin.
Thank you.
Come on, like
thank you, bro. Exactly.
Dano is starting up some stuff with Zach. Zach is. I'm so happy he's not here
Zach
anymore.
in the incubator and stardom. Oh God!
I'm telling you,
Zach might not even play there. I mean, as a starter.
If you think about it, honestly, objectively, JD and Saleh are 2 of the luckiest GMs and head coaches to get a mulligan, because you draft a quarterback like that. Not 3rd overall, not 4th, not trading up, 2nd overall, where you could have gotten a ransom. Think about it.
And you
What San Francisco did in order to move up with the Dolphins. And San Fran was really high on Zach Wilson. And to flop like that, and then to get, you know what? If you get us Aaron Rodgers, we'll give you another shot. That's huge. That's enormous. And I think, honestly, it was all Aaron Rodgers saying to Woody, I want Saleh there as my head coach. You know what I mean?
I'm mad at JD, though, like for the Zach Wilson pick. Like all the quarterbacks in that draft sucked, so it's not the end of the world, right? There's such a crapshoot, man. Like, it's not like we were the only team thinking Zach Wilson was going to be good.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know? So like it sucks, but like Sam Darnold isn't the answer either. Right. Obviously, revisionist history. If we went back, I would do the trade, like you're saying. But the reason why the Trey Lance doesn't get the same heat as Zach Wilson, that's a bigger bust.
That's even worse.
Even worse, but we didn't hear about it because he didn't play. and they continue to win. They got Brock Purdy, so like covers that up. But I have total faith in JD. Like I'm a big fan of JD. Like even if this doesn't work out with Salah, I'm not firing JD. In my opinion.
No, I wouldn't at all. Especially again, that's my whole entire thing with Salah. It's like he's not the head coach that, even though JD hired him, but I think maybe it was fool's gold with him. I think he knew it. He thought he knew his X's and O's. He doesn't. I have not seen him with a play sheet. Like, regular coaches go up and down. This guy has 2 thumbs up his ass. I'm sorry. Walking back and forth, looking, giving the okay or the that. Like, get one of the fans in the stands and put him there and give him a headset. I don't even know why he has a headset. Who's he talking to?
What's something to think about though with that is that the Jets we don't get the best to come here, right? Like we don't get people. Yeah, that was exactly a great point. Yeah, he is the reason we have a future right now. We don't get the best to come here. So Salah, it might have not have been Joe D's first choice. He might have just been what we could get. You know what I mean? Because it's hard, like to get a coach to come to the New York Jets and just lose after lose after lose. You got to deal with Woody Johnson and that crappy field. We got this field that just takes players out, the turf monster, and it's just like, we got a lot of stuff working against us. Bad history, supposedly the Namath curse, bad luck. There's so many things that you could say bad that would cause a coach to not want to come here. We're lucky enough that we even got someone like Joe D of his caliber and his ability. So you might be right, as far as like him not being the one to get the boot, because I'm thinking, who are you going to replace Joe D with? What GM are you going to get? What GM are you going to get if you can Joe D? Who are you going to get that could be remotely as savvy as good? Trader Joe, man, the guy's been making deals. He's made his blunders, fine, but the guy's put us in a great position. So it's hard for me to say get rid of him, because who are you going to replace him with?
I think Salah deserves some credit though. Like,
yeah, sure. For the defense, you crazy?
Yeah, we shouldn't have too much. Like the guy who's had Zach Wilson for 2 seasons still got 7 wins, right? I mean, now we can actually judge him. So I think you guys are all right about the X's and O aspect. Like where I'm nervous is not the regular season, is when we get to the postseason.
Yes.
Can our coach Andy Reid to make adjustments?
No.
Can we figure out to mess around with Joe Burrow or whoever it is? That's where I'm nervous.
No, that comes down to Rodgers. That's going to be Rodgers taking control and doing that there and making those adjustments at the line. With the quote unquote Hackett offense, which is really just Rodgers audibling all the time. So hopefully he audibles better.
Salah's just the front man, if you think about it, right? Because Aaron Rodgers is your offensive coordinator. Ulbrich is your defensive coordinator.
Yes.
With that being said, the Jets win in spite of Salah. You're looking at Salah probably being the head coach of the year. Isn't that crazy? Like it could possibly. It's not verbatim. It's not being facetious at all. It could possibly happen. The Jets land in the
if we win a playoff game, he's coach of the year.
Yeah, if we make the playoffs, he's coach.
If we win a single playoff game, that's coach of the year. Easy.
Right.
And possibly if we make the playoffs, but win even a wild card game, and that's coach of the year for him. It has to be.
I'm looking at the AFC East division, man.
We're winning the division. Like I'm not settling for a wild card.
Thank you.
I know.
Division. I need a home playoff game. Like I need to be there and experience that in my lifetime. I'm 34 years old. Like I need to see that.
I hope so too, man. I'm older than you. I ain't seen it. I'm going to be 40 soon. I haven't seen it. So yeah.
I saw it twice, dude. I saw it in 98 when we beat Buffalo in Buffalo with Vinny's bomb to Dedrick Ward to win it. That was the same day. Again, you couldn't enjoy that day because that was the day where Bill Clinton, he confessed that he had this whole thing with Monica.
Oh,
great.
God. So that just took
that was the day.
All the air out of the room.
Unreal. And then again, we won. The last time that we won was in 2002 with Chad. And And it wasn't one of those where we just stormed into the playoffs or whatnot. We had to wait for the Patriots to beat Miami. And when that happened, we had to beat Brett Favre and the Packers. That was one of the most memorable days ever. And we hosted a playoff game the following week against the Colts, and we clobbered Peyton Manning. That stadium was rocking, man. That's exactly what we need to see this season. Like, I want to have 2 playoff games. 2.
We can't.
You know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, and I just real quick, I want to say, like, the biggest key I think this year for us is, like, we have to win when we're the better team, right? Which is going to be a majority of the games. Like, we can't lose those trap games. Like, if we lose to the 49ers, okay. If we lose to the Rams, which I still think we're better than, okay. If we lose to the Bills once, okay. You lose to Miami once, okay. Right. But you need to win the Nashvilles, the Denvers, all these teams that we're playing that are trash. Like, there's
Arizona.
Go into London and win by 40 against the Vikings.
Well, I think in the betting odds we're going to be favored, or as of now we're favored in like 14 games.
Right.
Something like 13, 14 games. So we should win those.
Even Pittsburgh, man. Even Pittsburgh. Like, I get it. Oh, we don't win in Pittsburgh. They have no quarterback.
Zach Wilson, the one drive where Zach Wilson was like, holy shit, this guy's actually good. He had that one amazing drive, and then you never saw it again.
He did the gritty
story of his life.
Oh my goodness.
One drive, one game, one this, here, there. He's good. And then they're like, just enough so that we don't just send him on the bench forever.
Dude, I got every jersey. Every freaking Zach Wilson jersey. And I mean, I'm using it as a sham wow on the weekend.
Be good to clean the car with.
Exactly. All right, we're gonna be wrapping this up. Monty, where can they find you, my man?
All right, so you can find me and my 2 co-hosts, John and Adnan, on the Laugh Through the Turbulence Jets podcast. We're on YouTube and on Spotify.
Beautiful. And we look forward to seeing you during the season, man. I can't wait to be on your show as well, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got an open invite, so we'll let you know. I'm going to get with the boys, and we'll invite you and Liam on very, very, very soon.
Rock and roll. Panos.
Pleasure, guys. You won't find me anywhere. You'll find me here occasionally. Tune in. through you a like or subscribe on your podcast. I'll be checking you guys out.
Thanks, Panos. Good to talk with you, brother.
On Twitter, I'm Panos Capital on X.
I love it.
Mostly talking stocks and stuff. A lot of crypto, a lot of Bitcoin. So
I'm a crypto guy, so let's go.
Shiba Inu, baby.
Bitcoin mining stocks, guys. That's the play.
You have to. You got to, man. It's, again, not getting political, but you kind of know where things are going. If you're smart, you got to start picking up some crypto now, man. If you're smart enough, just pick it up. $100, $200, $300 before you know it. Next year at this time.
The halving just happened. You know what happens every time after the halving event.
Check out the ticker.
Exactly.
Iron, CLSK, Cypher, a couple of these Bitcoin mining stocks. If you look just in the past 2 days, because they all met with Trump, I'm sure you guys saw that. All the mining companies, they've ran like 30, 40% in like 2 days. Pretty crazy. But anyway.
All right.
Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Have a great one, man. And again, for everyone watching right now, don't forget to subscribe, like, and go Jets. We'll see you next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Later, folks.
Quarterback, Ken O'Brien of California Davis. Just 14 that first time, now going long. They got a wide open man, and he makes the catch. It's Braylon Edwards taking off. Braylon Edwards will take it home for the touchdown.
First down in San Diego territory at the 47-yard line. Big draw. And Pennington going for 6. Deep down the field, and it's caught by Santana Moss.